Chapter 27-28. At this point, Yin Ming purposely paused and coldly looked at Zhang Qixiao, just as Xiao Hua was worried. Zhang Qixiao suddenly felt like he had lost his soul. His eyes flashed with fear, and he almost blurted out, "Where is my lord? What did he say?" After speaking, Zhang Qixiao came to his senses. He narrowed his eyes and clenched his fists. He looked at Yin Ming with some anger and said coldly, "If you have something to say, say it quickly. Don't be so long-winded." However, when Yin Ming heard this, he waved his hand and put away the magic slip. He smiled and said, "It's rare to see Lord Sect Master angry. This old man thought that Lord Sect Master wouldn't get angry." Zhang Qixiao didn't feel any pressure in front of Yin Ming. He faintly said, "Although this sect master is very modest and usually doesn't get angry at subordinates, this sect master is being played like a monkey. This sect master will naturally get angry." "Played like a monkey? Ha ha, sect master Zhang, you are indeed insightful. These words are extremely well said." Yin Ming suddenly stared blankly, then he clapped his hands and laughed. "Since you know that this subordinate was disrespectful to Sect Master, Lord Sect Master will get angry. However, what if someone doesn't listen to Lord Jiping's words? What if they feign compliance but secretly disobey his orders? Lord Jipeng will get angry?" Zhang Qingxiao's expression changed slightly. He looked around and coldly said, "Yin Ming, what do you mean by this? What do you mean by this old man?" Yin Ming's face revealed a mysterious expression. He glanced at the motionless Xiao Hua and said, "This old man only wants to ask on behalf of Lord Jiping. Do you still remember why Lord Jiping brought you here and left you in the cultivation 3 kingdoms? Have you already forgotten that you are a member of the demon realm?" Zhang Qingxiao's face was slightly pale, but he still reluctantly scolded, "This is our sect master's matter. When Lord Jiping arrives, this sect master will personally report to him. What does this have to do with you? Naturally, it has nothing to do with this old man." Yin Ming was still smiling. "However, this old man still wants to ask Lord Sect Master, what is going on with Yellow Flower Ridge?" "Yellow Flower Ridge?" Zhang Qingxiao's eyes flashed with a trace of fierceness, and her body involuntarily moved a little. But looking at Yin Ming, he was still calm, and his body didn't move at all, as if he had nothing to fear. How do you know about Yellow Flower Ridge?" Zhang Qixiao looked around again, forcefully suppressing the killing intent in her heart, as she coldly asked. "What a coincidence!" Yin Ming answered all of Zhang Qingxiao's questions. "This old man was once in the country of Xi and happened to meet a disciple of my heavenly demon sect who I had some impression of. When I spoke to him, he was actually vague and even evasive. This old man had no choice but to ask about him. Did you kill Bai Tianfeng?" Zhang Qixiao suddenly realized something and asked coldly. "If he doesn't answer this old man's question, it means that he's being disrespectful to this old man, the vice sect leader. According to the rules of my heavenly demon sect, it's not a big deal for this old man to attack him." Yin Ming giggled and said, "Besides, this old man only searched his soul and didn't take his life. It was just that he went crazy and fell from the cliff." Zhang Qingxiao's face turned extremely ugly. "From Bai Tianfeng. This old man didn't get anything useful." Yin Ming looked at Zhang Qixiao and said with interest, "This old man only knew that Bai Tianfeng was going to Yellow Flower Ridge. This Yellow Flower Ridge. What kind of place is it? This old man is very curious. Lord Sect Leader, you said that my heavenly demon sect already has a foundation in the country of Xi. Why are you going to Yellow Flower Ridge? This sect leader's actions. Do I need to tell you the reason?" Yes, this old man thought. Even if this old man wanted to ask, Lord Sect Leader wouldn't answer. So, this old man had to go check it out personally. "You went to Yellow Flower Ridge?" Zhang Qingxiao's eyes were already curved like a falcon's. This old man hasn't been to Yellow Flower Ridge yet. Yin Ming shrugged slightly and said with a smile, "If this old man went, wouldn't Lord Sect Leader know? Of course, it's not that this old man didn't want to go, but before this old man went to Yellow Flower Ridge according to plan, I've already discovered some of Lord Sect Leader's secrets. What do you know? Zhang Qishao crossed his arms and seemed to have thrown caution to the wind. Meng was still smiling as he said unhurriedly. Actually, it's nothing much. This old man just found out that Yellow Flower Ridge didn't belong to 100 Herb Sect, but a small sect called Shanghuaming. This small sect only has 3.5 disciples, and one of them is called Zhang Qishao. But that Zhang Qishao doesn't seem to be the same person as Lord Sect Leader. He's far from being as handsome and charming as Lord Sect Leader. Zhang Qingxiao's eyelids twitched and he raised his arm. But when he saw that Meng was still fearless and didn't care about his actions, he stopped and said lightly, "Continue. Actually, even if this Zhang Qishao has the same name as Lord Sect Leader, and even if Lord Sect Leader is this Zhang Qishao, it's fine," Meng said again. But this old man found out that Shang Huaming's disciple who hasn't entered the sect is called Xiao Hua. Lord Sect Leader, don't you think it's strange? This Xiao Hua has the same name as Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even their looks are the same. Meng's tone was a little cold. Even if this Xiao Hua of Shang Huaming is Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect, it's fine. But this Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect seems to be the Xiao Hua who got the Diqianquan teleportation token from Fan Tong, right? It seems. Lord Sect Leader still doesn't know this Xiao Hua, right? You still want this old man to go to Meng Nation to find Xiao Hua? Zhang Qishao looked at Meng silently, not knowing what he was thinking. Actually, this old man doesn't care if Lord Sect Leader is the same person as this Zhang Qishao of Shanghuaming. So what if this Zhang Qishao is that Zhang Qishao? Doesn't Lord Jipeng have thousands of incarnations? It's normal for his subordinates to have hundreds and thousands of incarnations. Moreover, Lord Sect Leader has racked his brains for this heavenly demon sect, working hard every day. This old man has seen this merit. It's also for this heavenly demon sect that this old man has been assisting Lord Sect Leader. However, after this old man found out about Shanghuaming, I shockingly discovered that Shanghuaming had disappeared from Yellow Flower Ridge in a single night. This old man has some doubts. If 100 Herb Sect were to take action, aren't their guts too big? Aren't their appetites too good? Of course, no one knows how Shanghuaming's sect was exterminated that year. Even this old man couldn't find any results by several days. However, this old man also doesn't want to investigate. Because whether Shanghuaming existed or not has nothing to do with this old man. This old man's purpose in coming to the Three Kingdoms has nothing to do with this sect. Meng's voice became colder. However, this old man has no choice but to ask Lord Sect Leader. Since Lord Sect Leader knows the whereabouts of Xiao Hua of the Imperial Thunder Sect, and also knows that the Diqianquan teleportation token is in Xiao Hua's hands, and Lord Sect Leader even has some connections with Xiao Hua. Why, did you throw Lord Jipeng's matter to the back of your mind? Don't you know the true meaning of this Diqianquan teleportation token? At this point, although Meng didn't point out Zhang Qingxiao's true identity, he had already treated this Zhang Qishao as the same person. Immediately, Meng turned to look at Xiao Hua and said, "Moreover, Shanghuaming's Xiao Hua also has a mysterious background. When he was in Shanghuaming, he was just a boy who hadn't even reached level 3 of the Qi refining stage. After he came to the Imperial Thunder Sect, his cultivation soared. According to the latest battle report, not only did he make a lot of military exploits, but he even killed Qin Jian. His military exploits are second only to Li Zongbao of the Utopia faction. Lord Sect Leader, don't tell me you didn't contribute to this? This has nothing to do with me," Zhang Qishao said coldly. "I really don't understand. This is an old story from decades ago. Where did you find it? In this world, whether it's the Xiaoyu continent, millions of Ming mountains, or even the demon realm, if you don't want people to know, don't do it in the first place. People leave their names and geese leave their voices. As long as you have the heart, you can always find out," Meng said proudly, then turned to Xiao Hua and said, "Don't you think so, fellow cultivator Xiao Hua?" "That's right. Xiao Hua had long wanted to get rid of the Mi Meng. When he heard Yin Meng's words, he tore the Mi Meng away and said coldly, "In this world, only the dead can't reveal secrets. I'm afraid you're really tired of living." You're Xiao Hua? When Yin Meng saw Xiao Hua's true face, he couldn't help but be stunned. "I seem to have seen you somewhere before." As Yin Meng said this, he looked at Zhang Qi Xiao and suddenly realized something. "Ha, so that's how it is." When we were at Lingpei Mountain Villa, Lord Sect Leader had already hidden this matter from me. Lord Sect Leader's shrewdness is really deep. However, Zhang Qingxiao's figure moved slightly and began to circle to the other side of Yin Meng, forming a triangle with Xiao Hua. "What? Lord Sect Leader wants to keep me here?" Yin Meng wasn't timid and a trace of a smile appeared on his face as he said indifferently, "That's right." Zhang Qixiao said calmly. "Junior Marshal Brother Xiao has already said it very well. Only the dead can keep secrets. You know so much, yet you still want to leave this Tianzhu Peak?" Ha, I naturally want to leave." Yin Meng laughed loudly. "This heavenly demon sect has just been established. How can it be established without the sect leader's guidance? I'm the first vice-sect leader of the heavenly demon sect. In the absence of a sect leader, it's naturally up to me to lead the heavenly demon sect." "I understand now." Zhang Qinxiao suddenly understood. "So that Lord Jiping's Mo bamboo slip was planned by you all. Lord Jiping, he didn't even come to the cultivation 3 kingdoms. -11. Chapter 27-29. Ha, of course. If Lord Jiping were here, would you still be standing here obediently?" Yin Meng laughed. "You've had a problem with me for a long time, but you didn't dare to do anything because the Heavenly Demon Sect hasn't been established yet. Now that the Heavenly Demon Sect has been established, I'm no longer of any use to you. Is that why you want to get rid of me?" Zhang Qixiao said coldly. When Yin Meng heard this, he shrugged and said with a smile, "This old man didn't want to get rid of you so early. After all, Qing Fengmin and the others have been planning this Heavenly Demon Sect for many years, but they never realized it. Only you can establish the Heavenly Demon Sect. You're indeed very useful. In fact, in my plan, you can always be the sect master of the Heavenly Demon Sect until Lord Jiping and the others arrive. It's a pity that you're walking further and further away from Lord Jiping. Furthermore, your cultivation is becoming increasingly powerful. If this old man doesn't act now, I'm afraid that you'll kill this old man before I even do anything. Especially when I realize that you no longer have Lord Jiping in your heart. If I let you develop, when Lord Jiping arrives, I won't be able to answer to him even if I'm still alive. So, you used Lord Jiping's demonic slip to order us to establish the sect first, and then deceived us to come here?" Zhang Qixiao asked coldly. "Ha, sect master, you're wrong." Yin Meng clapped his hands and took out the demonic slip. He smiled and said, "This was given to me by Lord Jiping. It's used to order you, evil creature. However, I didn't take it out because I've been watching your performance all this time. You. Could it be that you've already?" Zhang Qingxiao's expression changed abruptly. "That's right," Yin Meng sneered. "Although you're good at concealing yourself and hid the aura of the demon realm in your body, I have Lord Jiping's demonic slip. How can I not know your origin? So what if you erase the demon's soul imprint? Do you think your contract with Lord Jiping will disappear in front of the demon god?" Upon hearing the word contract, Zhang Qixiao trembled involuntarily as if she was extremely afraid. Since you have this demon token, why did you ask me to come to this Heaven Pillar Peak?" Zhang Qingxiao's teeth began to chatter. Ha, do you still need to say it?" Yin Meng looked at Xiao Hua proudly and said, "If he wasn't at Tianzhu Peak, if he wasn't close to the great Dao cultivation strategy, would this junior brother Xiao of yours be able to appear in time? Could he send the Grand Universe teleportation token over? Ha, he has benefited a lot from you. When you are in danger, how can he not help you? Good plan. Ha, I always thought that I had you in the palm of my hand, But I never thought that you were actually a poison thorn. Zhang Qishao laughed like a madman. That's right. Zhang Qishao had been enduring silently in front of Yin Meng. She had thought that she was the master of the matter, but in the end, she realized that what she had done was just a farce. Yin Meng had already seen through it. In fact, Yin Meng's arrogance and conceit was just arrogance and conceit to begin with. How can this old man compare to Lord Ji Peng? Yin Meng said with a smile. This was all his orders. Hearing the mention of Lord Ji Peng, Zhang Qingxiao's body trembled again. Clearly, she was extremely afraid. Xiaohua had been silent all this while. Seeing this scene, he sneered and said, Yin Meng, the three of us will definitely fight today. Either you die or I die. This young master has a question that I really want to know. I wonder if you can answer it. This young master? This old man? Ha! As expected of senior brother and junior brother. All of you are extremely arrogant. Yin Meng laughed loudly and said, Go ahead and ask. See if this old man wants to answer. It's very simple. Xiaohua waved his hand and took out the Grand Universe teleportation token. He asked indifferently, This item is merely a Dharma token used for long-distance teleportation arrays. Is it that important? Is it actually worth your scheming? Oh, you are really making things difficult for this old man with this question. Yin Meng glanced coldly at Zhang Qishao, whose body was slightly bent, and said, In the entire Dawn Rain continent's 3 cultivation countries, I am afraid that only this old man knows the secret. It's just that this involves the arrival of Lord Ji Peng. How can this old man tell you? If you tell me, this young master might be merciful and not destroy this Dharma token. As Xiaohua spoke, he extended his left hand and held the 2 ends of the Grand Universe teleportation token. He smiled and said, If you don't tell me, don't blame this young master for being ruthless and destroying this Dharma token. That Lord Ji Peng of your family can forget about ever coming over. Ha! What a joke! Do you think that this Grand Universe teleportation token is merely a Dharma token used for teleportation? Yin Meng laughed loudly. You can try. This old man doesn't believe that you can actually destroy this item of the demon realm? What? This Dharma token has other uses? Xiaohua was slightly stunned, but he had already exerted force in his hand. Who would have thought that the Grand Universe teleportation token would be so incomparably hard? Even when Xiaohua exerted force in his hand, this item did not budge at all. There was simply no reaction at all. Damn it, there is indeed something fishy about this item. Xiaohua suddenly understood. This Yin Meng might be using the pretense of repairing the Grand Universe teleportation token as an excuse to do some other tricks. Haha, how about it? Yin Meng looked at Xiaohua's deflated expression and sneered. This item is completely useless in your hands. If you give it to this old man can still consider letting this evil creature live. As he spoke, Yin Meng glanced at Zhang Qishao. Whether I live or die, it is naturally up to me to decide. What does it have to do with you? Zhang Qishao roared angrily. He opened his mouth and the bright scenic bell immediately flew out. It turned into a golden light and smashed towards Yin Meng. At the same time, he touched his hand and took out a scarlet triangular flag from his storage pouch. He was just about to wave it. Evil creature! Yin Meng sneered. The devil slip in his hand suddenly released countless black threads that were several feet long. They were like the tentacles of the devil's slip. The moment these black threads appeared, the devil's slip immediately let out a strange cry. This cry was extremely ear-piercing and rushed into Xiaohua's ears like a sharp sword. When Xiaohua saw Zhang Qishao make a move, he originally wanted to open his mouth and release the Dream Slayer and Mountain Splitter. However, this devil's slip not only pierced his ears, but also his heart. It caused the blood in his veins to surge. It was extremely similar to the feeling during the blood sacrifice. How could Xiaohua still want to attack? He hastily patted his forehead. Amitabha. He released the 3-feet-tall Buddha relic. Amidst the wind and snow, the merciful Buddha's light shone brightly, blocking the demonic cry of the black silk. Xiaohua raised his hand and took out the 5-element staff. He clenched his teeth and stood under the Buddha relic, coldly looking at Yin Meng. This Yin Meng was indeed not simple. Just now, the devil's slip of unknown origin caused Xiaohua to be at a disadvantage. And this disadvantage was secondary. The most important thing was that the devil's slip seemed to be Zhang Qingxiao's nemesis. As soon as Zhang Qingxiao heard this devil's slip, his entire body trembled rapidly. His limbs did not listen to him at all and curled up together. His entire body even fell down in midair. Moreover, after the waving devil's slip trembled, the devil's slip suddenly expanded and fell on Zhang Qingxiao's body. The devil's slip firmly entangled him, and there were even hundreds of devil's slips black slip that pierced his glabella. Hee. Zhang Qingxiao's mouth was wide open, making inexplicable sounds. It seemed like he was howling, but also seemed like he was crying. His round eyes were now white, and his black pupils had shrunk to the size of a bean, slowly rotating in his eye sockets. As Zhang Qingxiao screamed, his corporeal body began to twist and change. Some sharp black thorns suddenly shot out from a certain part of his body, and these black thorns quickly retracted the moment they pierced through his clothes. See. Xiaohua sucked in a breath of cold air. He really did not expect that Zhang Qingxiao would not have any strength to fight back against Yin Meng. And he really understood Zhang Qingxiao's fear from before, as well as his abnormal behavior when he went up the mountain. This Yin Meng was none other than that bullshit Lord Jiping. With just a devil's slip, he was able to torture Zhang Qingxiao to this state. If it was really as Zhang Qingxiao had expected, then when Lord Jiping came, Zhang Qingxiao would probably be paralyzed, right? What kind of secret technique did you use? You actually managed to erase the devil's slip so cleanly? Not only was Xiaohua shocked, but Yin Meng was also extremely shocked when he saw Zhang Qingxiao struggling under the devil's slip's black slip. According to Lord Jiping, as long as you hear the devil's slip's black slip, you will return to your original body. Why are you still struggling after using the 1,000 slips entanglement? You vile spawn, you really want to be a human being? Go. Yin Meng opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of devil's slip's black slip towards Zhang Qingxiao. Zhang Qingxiao could not help but cry out loudly. His body under the devil's slip's black slip quickly squirmed, as if it had no bones. Devil's slip! Go to hell! Xiaohua felt a pain in his heart. His figure flashed through the air like a breeze and flew in front of Yin Meng. He raised his wishful steel staff and struck towards Yin Meng's head. Oh? It's actually the flowing cloud movement technique? Yin Meng's eyes lit up. He casually waved his hand and a devil's slip's black slip rushed out of his sleeves and blocked the wishful steel staff. The devil's slip's black slip seemed to have intelligence, as it bared its fangs and brandished its claws. Humph! The primordial spirit within the Buddha's relic was not stimulated by Xiaohua. He slightly opened his mouth and said Lin. Along with the incantation, the Buddha's seal was also pinched and struck out. Oh? You actually understand the Buddhist mantra? Seeing Xiaohua's Buddha's relic strike out, the golden Buddha's light fell. Although this, Lin, word had the effect of transcendence, it was not used for fighting. However, under the Buddha's light, the devil's slip's black slip was like a snowflake under the strong light. It instantly melted, and the devil's slip's black slip. -11. Chapter 27:30. Seeing that the Buddhist mantra was effective, Xiaohua opened his mouth again without hesitation. The confrontation character spiraled in the air and fell towards Zhang Qingxiao. You dare! Yin Meng shouted angrily. He also opened his mouth and a black light rushed out. It turned into a black net in front of the mantra to block it. With a pu sound, the confrontation character fell and broke the black net. It landed on Zhang Qingxiao's body without stopping. See! You! Yin Meng was shocked. He did not expect that in just a few decades, Xiaohua's Buddhist cultivation had actually reached such a high realm. It was precisely his nemesis. When the confrontation character landed on Zhang Qingxiao's body, it made a zzz sound. Although the black threads disappeared like melting snow, the golden mantra was also exhausted. And, seeing this, Xiaohua did not find it strange. These black threads were the demonic order bestowed by Lord Jipeng. If it was broken by his simple mantra, then it would be strange. Confrontation, confrontation, confrontation. Xiaohua directly urged the Buddha Saraira to land between him and Zhang Qishao. One mantra after another landed on it. Ha ha ha, this old man has not seen your Vajradharma body for many years. Come, come, come! Let this old man see what realm your Vajradharma body has reached. Yin Meng naturally would not allow Xiaohua to single-mindedly break the seal. He slapped his forehead, and a black aura emerged from the top of his head. It rushed straight into the air, and enveloped an area of several dozen feet around him. At the same time, the black gas produced thousands of ghostly wails and wolf howls. It was extremely ear-piercing. Following the emergence of the black gas, other parts of Yin Meng's body also surged with black gas. This black gas was different from the black gas above his head. It was like thousands of tentacles covering Yin Meng's entire body. Roar! A muffled roar came from Yin Meng's throat. His body, which was already completely covered by the black gas, began to squirm like Zhang Qishao. The black gas on the surface also suddenly surged like boiling water. At the same time, an indescribable deterrence was emitted from the black qi, and it quickly rushed towards Xiaohua. Sigh, Xiaohua sighed slightly. He clapped his hands and released the pressure of an early-stage gold core cultivator. He tried his best to resist this demonic deterrence that seemed to be baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. However, in just a moment, Xiaohua felt that something was wrong. This kind of deterrence from Yin Meng seemed to be constantly surging over, and it was even climbing steadily. Very soon, it covered his own pressure. That feeling of being unable to resist and feeling of powerlessness came from the depths of his heart. Golden core, ah, golden core! However, this is merely the threshold of cultivation. If I were to stay in the demon-resisting valley, I would be nothing more than a pawn. As he thought this, Xiaohua did his best to use his secret technique to deceive the heavens and cross the sea, slowly increasing the pressure. Eh? Little thing, you actually know the secret technique of pressure? A sharp voice came out from the black qi. It seemed to be different from the Yin Meng's voice. It was the voice of the devil world that Xiaohua had heard in Lingpei Mountain Villa. Humph! Of course, I understand. Otherwise, I wouldn't be standing here. Xiaohua smiled coldly. He raised the wishful staff in his hand and prepared to fly towards Yin Meng. Ha! Just a little thing, you actually dare to show off in front of me. Where is your Buddhist Dharmakaya? To fight with a nobody from the devil world like you, do I still need to use my Dharmakaya? Xiaohua said in a disdainful tone. Ha ha ha, you only know one Buddhist mantra, and you still dare to exaggerate? I'll let you see how powerful I am. As Yin Meng spoke, another angry roar was emitted from the black gas. Following the angry roar, the black gas suddenly expanded and stood upright in midair. The swarming black gas was like a fountain that shot upwards by more than 40 feet. A huge force was generated from the black gas, pushing aside everything within 100 feet. Even if Xiaohua wanted to fly to Yin Meng's side, he would not be able to do so. Xiaohua was helpless. He could only open his mouth, and the Dream Executor and Mountain Breaker flew out. They circled in midair and flew to the other side of Yin Meng. Hum hum hum! Just after the Dream Executor and Mountain Breaker flew past the black qi, the 4 feet tall black qi let out a loud roar, and then quickly shrank. When the impact gradually disappeared, a 4 feet tall giant appeared in midair. The giant's head was big, and its blood-red hair was curled into a ball. Its fist-sized eyes were black and there were no ordinary eyeballs. In its bloody mouth, 2 long fangs stretched out obliquely, and a garlic-like nose poked the face that was bigger than a basin. The giant was completely naked, and the black gas from before had already turned into a demonic armor that covered his vital parts. There were strange patterns on the demonic armor, and the patterns were constantly overflowing with a pitch-black brilliance. In the middle of the patterns, the demonic armor was filled with a blood-red substance. Outside of the magic armor was the giant's strong arms. The muscles on the arms were bulging and glossy, and from time to time, there were traces of black chi going in and out of them. "Grandma, how can I fight with this?" Xiaohua was somewhat puzzled. Although he was considered a tall cultivator, it was impossible for him to be more than 10 feet tall. This Yin Meng's body was actually more than 4 feet tall. Standing in front of Yin Meng's body, Xiaohua looked like a child. "Little thing! Where is your Dharma body?" This senior has been looking forward to it for a long time. Yin Meng roared, and the bloody mouth actually spat out a bloody light. An indescribable stench of blood permeated the whole place. "Do I need a Dharma body to deal with an ordinary demon like you?" Xiaohua sneered. His figure flew up, and the wishful staff in his hand smashed towards Yin Meng. "Haha, a little thing is really a little thing. You actually used a magic weapon in front of this senior. The ignorant are really fearless." Yin Meng did not care. He waved his hand and clenched his fist towards Xiaohua's wishful staff. Yin Meng's fist was also a few feet in size. Against Xiaohua's wishful staff, cough cough, it was really a bit of an unfair victory. However, with a loud bang, Yin Meng screamed. Xiaohua's wishful staff suddenly hit Yin Meng's fist, causing black chi to splatter everywhere. Yin Meng's huge arm involuntarily shrank back, and even his entire arm was gushing with blood. You are not a magic weapon?" Yin Meng sucked in a breath of cold air and said with some surprise. "What this junior uses is none of your business. Just give me your life." Xiaohua's figure was like a shadow, and the wishful staff was raised towards Yin Meng's head. However, he was really shorter than Yin Meng. The wishful staff was no different from a matchstick to Yin Meng. But just now, he had suffered a loss from the matchstick. How could Yin Meng dare to be careless? His other uninjured arm patted his hand and took out a huge mace from his storage bag. "Good boy. This magic weapon. I am afraid it is 2 feet long." Xiaohua watched as the huge mace was wrapped in a faint black aura as it streaked through the air. The sharp teeth on the mace let out a sharp screech. The sound of the wind and the pressure from the mace were produced at the same time. Xiaohua couldn't help but be speechless. Fight. Xiaohua was not afraid of this kind of fight. Although his wishful staff was really short, the courage in his heart was higher than the sky. When he heard his roar, the wishful staff turned around to meet the mace. Boom! Another loud noise, and the air was once again set off in midair, and the snowflakes that had been floating in the air were swept away. Xiaohua's body flew back more than 100 feet, and Yin Meng's figure also staggered and retreated. Kill. Xiaohua's figure retreated, but his killing move did not stop. He secretly urged the Zhu Ming behind him to split the mountain, and like a meteor chasing the moon, it stabbed Yin Meng. Humph! Yin Meng naturally saw the 2 flying swords. Seeing the flying sword stabbing at him, he stretched out his hand, and the black chi on the arm that was previously smashed by Xiaohua slowly retracted, and an intact fist appeared again. The large hand opened, and a shadow covered the area. It was as if there was a sealing force that sealed the space around the flying sword. The Dream Executioner and Mountain Splitter immediately felt as if they had fallen into a quagmire. Kill! Xiaohua coldly snorted again, and his figure just stabilized. Following Xiaohua's urging, the 2 flying swords suddenly emitted a green and red brilliance. As soon as this brilliance was born, it immediately began to blend, and a fist-sized heart shape was born on the 2 flying swords. Oh? Sword intent? You actually know the sword technique? Yin Meng was a little surprised, but the imprisoning force in his hand did not decrease. Thin black silk even grew from his fingers and hung down, quickly wrapping the whole heart shape. You're courting death. Xiaohua sneered. The heart shape in the black chi rapidly expanded, and the black chi had no choice but to expand as well. When the heart shape was a few feet in size, it suddenly emitted a ga sound, and a completely green and red sword light burst out from the black chi. A few feet long flying sword stood out from the black chi. Illusory sword? Yin Ming obviously also understood sword cultivation very well, and could not help but be stunned. How can you be an illusory sword cultivator? 1. As soon as the heart sword was born, it immediately emitted an endless sword intent. The sword chi also penetrated from the sword light, directly piercing towards Yin Ming's big hand. Yin Ming did not dare to be careless. His hand slightly rotated, and a cluster of black chi was born from the palm of his hand, wrapping around the heart sword. Go to hell! Xiaohua roared, and his figure flew up again. The wishful steel staff crossed in midair, and the thunder under his feet moved. He borrowed the power of the staff, and the sound of thunder from the staff, and smashed towards the giant Yin Ming without arrogance. The wishful steel staff still had the sound of the wind, but under the roar of thunder, the sound of the wind could not be heard. The suffocating force above the staff stirred up the black gas on the Yin Ming demon armor from afar. A strange flow of black gas and blood appeared on the Yin Ming demon armor out of thin air. -11. Chapter 27:31. Yin Ming was originally attracted by the heart sword, but now he was disturbed by the wishful steel staff. He was furious. Roar! He simply retracted his hand and allowed the heart sword to grow bigger and bigger in the black gas. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood-red light, which enveloped the area of 10 feet around the heart sword. He held the mace with both hands and attacked Xiaohua's wishful steel staff. Fortunately, Yin Ming made a decision. Xiaohua's attack seemed slow, but in fact, it was really fast. It was absolutely different from the first attack just now. In the blink of an eye, it fell on Yin Ming's left shoulder. It was where the black gas came from. Boom! There was a loud noise, as if the entire Tianzhu peak was blown up by a huge wave. The craggy rocks on the peak were torn apart by the force of the collision between the two. Rumble! The rocks tumbled down from the foothills on all sides. Kung! Just as Xiaohua's seemingly thin and weak body was sent flying like a piece of duckweed, the black gas behind Yin Ming rapidly spun under the bloody light. It was as if countless sentient tentacles had blocked the heart sword. Threads of bloody light seeped into the black gas in an attempt to corrupt the flying sword. With a long cry from the heart sword, the piercing sword light penetrated the black gas and pierced through the blood light. The sword light was like a rainbow, stabbing straight at Yin Ming's back. Yin Ming sent Xiaohua flying, but he himself was also not in a good state. His huge body suddenly flew backwards, and this flying sword just happened to stab diagonally into the magic armor on his back. Buzz! The green and red sword light flashed, and the black gas on the magic armor was defeated. Although the black gas combined with the blood light quickly transformed into patterns, and there was an indescribable fluctuation, the sword light still went in. Roar! Yin Ming let out a sad cry, and his whole body shook rapidly. His whole head and feet turned strangely, and his front heart turned into his back. Unexpectedly, his back was facing Xiaohua. Woo! Where the flying sword pierced, there was no blood light. Instead, the black gas surged rapidly, and countless black gas covered the flying sword, as if to swallow the flying sword into the body. Not good! Feeling the surge of the devil chi, his connection with the flying sword weakened. Xiaohua was slightly shocked. The moment his body floated, he hurriedly used the ethereal steps and the wind escape technique. Like a ghost in the air, he instantly appeared behind Yin Ming. Woo! The wishful steel staff struck again. Oh, not good! Although Yin Ming paid attention to Xiaohua, he did not expect Xiaohua's actions to be so fast. How could he dare to deal with the flying sword with all his strength? He hurriedly waved the wishful staff again. Taking advantage of Yin Ming's distraction, the sword light of the heart sword suddenly expanded and slashed a hole several feet in front of Yin Ming's heart, before rushing out. Woo! Although there was no trace of blood, Yin Ming still couldn't help but cry out in pain. Little thing! I devil, demon, devil! Yin Ming sent Xiaohua flying away with his mace, then said viciously, "Diluo, that bastard, didn't he give you too many things?" "Diluo?" Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. He did not understand what Yin Meng was talking about, but he did not pay attention to it. The soul of Zhu Dream urged the entire heart of sword to fly into the air. The flashing green and red sword light flashed slightly, and two heart-shaped sword intents appeared at the same time, one from the left and one from the right, piercing towards Yin Meng. At the same time, Xiao Hua threw out a fire talisman, which fell at Yin Meng's feet. Rumble! The fire talisman exploded, and waves of fire soared into the sky. The huge impact and flames instantly blew apart the lower half of Yin Meng's body. Streams of demonic energy rolled in the flames, and Yin Meng's exasperated curses and roars were drowned out by the waves of fire. "Ha! What devil cultivator? What deity? Nothing more than this!" Xiao Hua sneered and looked at Zhang Qishao. The Buddha's Saraira was the nemesis of the devil cultivator, but Xiao Hua was afraid that Zhang Qishao would be in danger. He did not dare to use the Buddha's Saraira against the enemy. He could only rely on the Buddhist mantra to maintain Zhang Qingxiao's current situation. At this time, it was still the same as before. Although the Buddha's light and the mantra's golden light fell, the black silk wrapped around Zhang Qishao did not show any signs of collapse. "Army! Do!" Xiao Hua was a bit anxious. He did not care whether the mantra would harm Zhang Qishao or not, and spat out the two mantras in succession. The army mantra was still okay. It was no different from the confrontation mantra. When it fell on it, it only dispersed the black chi on the surface, and the black chi recovered in a moment. However, the Do mantra was a bit strange. It actually turned into strands of golden silk, and fell into the black chi. Zhang Qingxiao's body wriggled even more violently in the black chi, and all kinds of devil thorns crazily rushed out from various parts of her body. "Damn it, is this right or wrong?" Xiao Hua was a bit helpless. But at this time, without waiting for him to do anything, a cold voice came from behind him. "No matter what deity fought in the so-called Imperial Demon Valley. Don't tell me you want to rely on this bullshit spirit talisman to kill deity?" Xiao Hua frowned slightly. When he turned his head, he was a bit dumbfounded. But he saw that Yin Meng was different from before. Her legs that were destroyed by the fire talisman had recovered, and her originally bare legs were now covered with black chi. And this black chi... No, it should be said that all the black chi around Yin Meng's body had changed, and turned into dancing flames. It's just that these flames are not the usual green-red color of dawn rain continent, nor are they purple. Instead, they are those pitch-black colored flames. Xiao Hua was almost moaning in a low voice. He already understood that this Yin Meng was cultivating the devil flame of the devil realm's cultivation method. She used devil chi to cultivate the devil flame, and according to the level of the devil flame, the devil cultivator's level of cultivation was determined. His fire talisman was admittedly very powerful, but it was still of the fire attribute. When it came to Yin Meng, he was afraid that it would not cause much damage. Innate true water. Xiao Hua instantly thought of his other killing move. However, when he thought of Zhang Qingxiao's situation, he immediately killed this idea. What should I do? Xiao Hua didn't have many encounters with devil cultivators, and this was the first time dealing with this kind of devil cultivator. He really couldn't figure out Yin Meng's background. Fortunately, Zhang Qishao had previously let Xiao Hua see the devil slip and blood drop paradise's cultivation method, so he had some understanding of the devil realm's cultivation method. I'm afraid that second martial brother is right. That spirit-punishing vital light should be able to kill this guy. Xiao Hua thought to himself. However, I still haven't mastered the spirit-punishing vital light. If I act rashly and let him prepare, I'm afraid that it won't be easy to succeed. Thinking of Xiao Hua, she coldly said, Yin Meng, you're a cultivator of the Blue Li sect. How did you participate in the battle of the Imperial Devil Valley? Don't you find it tiring to keep calling me your highness? My Dawn Rain continent has a saying, a real man doesn't change his name. Do you dare to leave your name? Ha! Yin Meng laughed. The pitch-black devil flame around his body moved as if it was breathing, and an indescribable heat enveloped an area of nearly 100 feet. This sovereign is Lord Ji Peng's subordinate, Deputy General Qin Xian. I'm also a famous general of the northern Jian Devil region. What's the harm in telling you my name? It's just to satisfy your curiosity. Qin Xian said arrogantly. You're a devil person. How did you sneak into my Dawn Rain continent? Moreover, you can cultivate devil techniques? Xiao Hua was extremely puzzled. He had also seen the blood drop paradise before, but he couldn't make sense of it at all. Naturally, he wanted to take advantage of the situation. Holding this Qin Xian, his body looked huge, but he wasn't stupid. He coldly looked at Xiao Hua and pointed with his hand. If this kind of evil creature can sneak into the Dawn Rain continent, why can't this sovereign? As for how to cultivate devil techniques. Ha ha ha, seeing that you've even cultivated the Huan country's flying sword to the illusory sword, could it be? You still want to cultivate devil techniques? Since you have such lofty aspirations, why shouldn't this sovereign fulfill your wish? Oh? Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and curiously asked. Then what's the reason? It's very simple. Qin Xian stretched out a finger that was comparable to a wishful staff and faintly smiled. You only need to be possessed by this sovereign, then you can naturally cultivate. Xiao Hua's expression turned ugly, while Qin Xian laughed heartily. A pitch-black brilliance flashed around his body, and within a radius of 100 zhang that was enveloped by the heat, strands of black flames suddenly flashed. These black flames not only burned the air to the point of distorting, but also surged towards Xiao Hua like a surging wave. Moreover, this space was sealed, completely wrapping Xiao Hua within. Sure enough, it's devil flames that overflow the heavens. Xiao Hua sneered. He opened his mouth and spat out a ball of fierce flame. He was about to use the divine flame art, but at this moment, behind Qin Xian, a burst of sword cries rang out. An indescribable, bone-piercing pain entered Xiao Hua's primordial spirit. Not good! Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed. He hurriedly urged his sword art to retrieve his flying swords. Don't you think it's too late to retrieve them now? Qin Xian sneered. He clenched his hand, and a black flame like a waterfall rushed towards the two flying swords that were already besieged by the devil flame. Looking at the Dream Executor and Mountain Splitter, the green-red sword radiance rapidly swallowed and spat out, and also slowly contracted. The strands of devil flame had already seeped into the sword intent of the heart sword along with the sword radiance. It was precisely the two flying swords that were burning. Xiao Hua now also cared about the fierce flame. The sword essence around his body surged, and bursts of sword radiance were released from his body. A huge sword of 2 zhang in size appeared where Xiao Hua was. It was actually very similar to a sword cultivator's sword transformation. However, at the core of this huge sword, Xiao Hua's figure still existed. He did not merge with the sword radiance. Under the lingering sword radiance, Xiao Hua's face was slightly embarrassed. Break! Xiao Hua snorted coldly. The huge sword streaked across the sky and directly slashed towards Qin Xian. Wherever the sword radiance passed, it actually split apart the monstrous devil flame. Hiss! Qin Xian was originally shocked when he saw Xiao Hua transform into a sword, but when he saw that Xiao Hua himself could not transform into a sword, he did not feel it was funny. However, when the sword radiance fell, he was stunned. He could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. The flying swords that Xiao Hua transformed into were neither fish nor fowl, but the fierceness of the sword she could not be faked. Moreover, before the huge sword fell, the imprisonment comparable to a sword transformation had already appeared around Qin Xian and surged towards Qin Xian, as if it wanted to squeeze Qin Xian. -11. Chapter 2732. This little thing is really an illusory sword cultivator? Qin Xian was not surprised. He shook his shoulder, and demonic flames surged out from his body. He tried his best to burn away the shackles, and at the same time, he raised his mace. Rumble, rumble, rumble! Another huge sound rang out. This time, it was even more intense than the previous ones. Qin Xian's 12-zhang tall devil body was struck down by Xiao Hua's huge sword. A huge hole appeared in the space surrounded by the black flames. Return, Xiao Hua opened his mouth. Zhu Meng and Hua Shan took the opportunity to fly across the sky, and landed in front of Xiao Hua with the black flames. Humph, Xiao Hua's eyes turned. He slapped his hand, and the yin-yang sword gourd flew out, stopping right next to the two flying swords. Extinguish! Xiao Hua grabbed with his hand, and the yin-yang sleeve came out. In an instant, the black flames on the flying swords were extinguished. Then, he pointed with his hand, and the two flying swords fell into the yin-yang sword gourd. Xiao Hua held the sword gourd in his hand, and the sword light around his body flashed. He coldly looked at the flustered Qin Xian who was flying up from the black flames. Without waiting for him to stabilize himself in the air, he chanted a mantra. The two red and green flying swords, which were actually stored in the space, flew into the air with the sword gourd, and directly pierced towards Qin Xian's head. You're courting death! Qin Xian opened his mouth, and a mouthful of bloody light blocked the flying swords. No matter how the flying swords looked for a flaw, they could not pierce through. Xiao Hua was helpless. He pointed at the yin-yang sword gourd, and the two flying swords returned. Damn it! Little thing, this sovereign saw that your body was not bad. This sovereign wanted to use you as a meat cauldron, but you actually don't know what's good for you. Qin Xian angrily shouted. Hand over your life! As he spoke, he opened his mouth again, and several mouthfuls of bloody light fell into the black flames. The black flames set off waves of fire, and they rushed towards Xiao Hua. It's just demonic flames, what's so great about them? Xiao Hua sneered. The icicle flame from before became even more vigorous. It flashed red around Xiao Hua's body, and he fearlessly flew towards the black flames. Boom! Xiao Hua usually used the frigid death flame to refine equipment, but he had never used it against an enemy. However, the frigid death flame, which was like a crimson dragon, was not inferior to the Yi-Yang fan from before. It directly threw itself into the black flames. Kiki! How can such ordinary flames be a match for my sex black flames? Qin Xian let out an arrogant laugh. He brandished the mace in his hand and chopped towards Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua knew that although the wishful steel staff was heavy, it was really too small. He would not be able to take advantage of this guy. He simply did not use the wishful steel staff and still turned it into a sword and slashed towards Qin Xian. Boom! Another huge sound rang out. The sword light around Xiao Hua's body flickered rapidly, and Qin Xian was sent flying again. It was another tie. However, the same couldn't be said for Lingying Zhuhua. Just as Qin Xian had said, when the crimson dragons rushed into the black flames, perhaps they couldn't compare to the black flames, or perhaps there were too few of them. They were completely annihilated by the black flames and disappeared. Looking at the black flames that pounced towards him once again, Xiao Hua frowned. With a wave of his hands, two purple flames appeared in his hands. The pure as crystal Samadhi true fire immediately forced the black flames in front of him to retreat. Oh? Samadhi true fire? Qin Xian was not surprised that Xiao Hua had Samadhi true fire. However, seeing this unusually pure Samadhi true fire, he was somewhat moved. This was definitely the first time he had seen something like this in his life. Immediately, the previously extinguished thought of taking over his body was born again. This little thing's physical body is much stronger than this Yin Meng. Not only is it of the fire attribute, but it has also practiced flying swords. That physical body is absolutely strong. If this sovereign takes over his body, advancing to Devil General is not a problem. Go! How could Xiao Hua know what Qin Xian was thinking? Both of his hands waved the fire-controlling art. Dozens of Samadhi true fire danced in the air like needles, rushing towards the top of his head, as if wanting to break through the black flames. Haha, it's just Samadhi true fire. How can it break through this sect's black flames? Qin Xian laughed. Little thing, you should obediently surrender. This sovereign will tell you the secret of devil cultivators. Go. Xiaohua did not say anything and pointed his finger at the sword gourd. The execution dream and mountain splitter flew out again, stabbing towards Qin Xian. Qin Xian waved his hand and the black flames flashed with a bloody light, blocking the two flying swords. When Xiaohua withdrew the flying swords again, the mace in Qin Xian's hand involuntarily moved, as if waiting for Xiaohua's sword attack. Sure enough, Xiaohua urged the sword light around his body, and with a woo sound, it chopped over. Rumble, the devil flames around Qin Xian rushed out crazily. The wishful staff in his hand barely blocked the giant's sword. Qin Xian himself fell several feet and sent Xiaohua flying. But how could Xiaohua be sent flying? The sword light around his body suddenly became resplendent, and the sword chi above his head pounced towards the Samadhi true fire that was already tearing apart the black flames. The Samadhi true fire was much stronger than the Lingyi Zhu fire. Although the quantity was very small, it was already able to resist the black flames and tear a small hole in the black flames. Now that Xiaohua had turned into a sword and stabbed into the small hole, the black flames were immediately split open and forced to retreat. A ray of light shot in from outside the black flames. Want to leave? No way! Xiaohua was just about to rush out when he heard Qin Xian's mockery. He saw that in the black flames that were forced to roll, countless blood threads rushed out and quickly condensed into a blood net above the giant's sword. The sword light and sword chi fell into the blood threads and were immediately corroded. Seeing the sword light of the giant's sword disappear very quickly, the blood threads under Qin Xian's urging endlessly poured out. Xiaohua had no choice but to retreat. Because of several sword transformations, the sword chi in Xiaohua's body could no longer support him. His thin and tall figure gradually appeared again. It's really only the third grade of the illusory sword realm. Qin Xian smiled with satisfaction. To be able to retreat from this sovereign's blood pool, you can be proud. It's better for you to be proud of yourself. Xiaohua waved his hands as if to use the thunder summoning technique, but to his surprise, there was no reaction at all. It seemed to be completely blocked by the black flames. Not good! Xiaohua's heart tightened and unconsciously pointed his finger at the sword gourd. Whoosh whoosh! The two flying swords rushed out again and still stabbed towards Qin Xian's head. This time, Qin Xian was impatient. He waved his hand as if swatting a fly. The black flames rushed over and blocked the flying swords, and his attention was once again focused on Xiaohua's following attack. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't let him down. With a shake of his hand, he took out the wishful staff and threw it in front of him again with a bang. After Qin Xian easily sent Xiaohua flying, the Dream Slayer and Mountain Splitter flew back into the sword gourd. However, at this time, Xiaohua waved his hand and a talisman flew out. This talisman was shabby. Xiaohua had obtained it in the Imperial Thundersect's Eastern Ridge Herb Garden, but he hadn't used it much. At this time, as Xiaohua urged his spiritual power, an incomplete big hand appeared from the talisman. Following Xiaohua's figure, it grabbed towards the black flames. The hand of a nascent soul? Qin Xian was slightly surprised, but after sweeping it with his devil sense, he smiled again. What kind of talisman is this? It looks like the hand of a nascent soul, but it doesn't have the power of a nascent soul. To deal with a little devil like you, is there a need to use the hand of a nascent soul? Xiaohua urged his golden core. The spiritual power of the golden core rushed out from the two yin and yang meridians. Those incomplete meridians were faintly uncomfortable. Buzz, when the large hand grabbed the black flame, it was as if it was tearing apart a piece of cloth. A 10-feet-long tear appeared. However, the spiritual talisman was immediately contaminated by the black flame. It emitted black smoke and burned at an extremely fast speed. Rumble! Taking advantage of this opening, Xiaohua waved his hands and used the lightning drawing technique. Dark clouds rolled over Tianzhu Peak, and countless lightning flashed in the dark clouds. Imperial Thunder Technique? Qin Xian was shocked. He looked at the horizon in disbelief, then lowered his head to look at Xiaohua, who was waving his hands. You are a golden core cultivator. How is it possible, Kachacha? The sound of thunder like a drum pulled Qin Xian back from his shock. He couldn't see any understanding in his eyes. Instead, he shouted in a sharp voice. Imperial Thunder Sect's Thunder Immortal. Who is he to you? Thunder Immortal? Xiao Hua was slightly stunned. However, he immediately understood. He pulled his hands downwards, and with a kacha sound, dozens of heavenly lightning bolts descended following his hand gesture, striking the black flames. Under the light of the lightning, the black flames emitted a sizzling sound and rapidly retreated. Under the black flames, scarlet blood traces could be seen. Seeing that Xiao Hua didn't answer his question, Qin Xian was furious. Black gas continuously surged out from his body. When the black gas came into contact with the devil flames, it immediately turned into black flames and continuously rushed into the sky, filling up the gaps caused by the lightning strikes. This sovereign wants to see. Even a nascent soul cultivator as strong as the Thunder Immortal couldn't continuously control lightning. You, a little golden core cultivator. But at this point, Qin Xian suddenly stopped and shouted with a strange tone. This sovereign understands. You are definitely the disciple of the Thunder Immortal. That old ghost couldn't resist the backlash of the Imperial Thunder technique. When his body was on the verge of collapse, he found a way to save himself. Your sword cultivation technique was taught by him. Hee hee. Devil brat, you're really smart. Xiao Hua already understood from Qin Xian's words that Qin Xian, who participated in the Battle of Imperial Demon Valley, must have fought with the so-called Thunder Immortal. He must have suffered a great loss from the lightning strikes. And his opponent, the Thunder Immortal, can also control lightning like him. Of course, in the Imperial Thunder sect, there are many cultivators who can control lightning. Especially those above nascent soul. Xiao Hua doesn't know of them. This Thunder Immortal is either a nascent soul cultivator or a spirit-severing cultivator. Both of them are from the Imperial Thunder sect. Thus, Xiao Hua smiled and said, Since you know that this young master is the Thunder Immortal's disciple, why don't you quickly surrender? Obediently let this young master kill you? Ha! This sovereign suffered a great loss at the hands of the Thunder Immortal. These thousands of years, I've always been thinking about how to avoid the lightning strikes and how to kill him. Now that I can't see the Thunder Immortal, killing his disciple is also a happy thing. Qin Xian laughed loudly. He opened his mouth and another ball of bloody light flew out. You think this sovereign can't block the lightning strikes? -11. Chapter 27:33. Damn it, I've been tricked! Hearing Qin Xian's words, Xiao Hua's heart sank. He felt that he had overreached himself. The blood light that Qin Xian spat out was different from before. Once it landed in the air, it immediately turned into blood shadows and rushed into the black flames that were scattered by the lightning. The black flames immediately stopped flowing and turned into all kinds of strange shapes. They looked like demonic beasts and demons. They covered the black flames. Kill! Xiao Hua was curious. He waved his hands and dozens of lightning bolts fell and hit the black flames. The protrusions on the black flames were the first to hit the lightning bolts. Under the lightning, the protrusions were immediately flattened. Countless golden lightning bolts covered the protrusions. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time that the lightning bolts fell on the black flames, blood threads similar to the lightning bolts were released from the collapsed areas. Sizzle! Sizzle! Countless sizzling sounds rang out from all around the black flames. The power of the heavenly lightning was actually corroded by the blood threads, and it melted away in an instant. Hiss! Xiao Hua unconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air. Looking at the strange blood threads, he was stunned. He understood that if it was before the lightning tribulation, it would be reasonable for Qin Xian to break his lightning bolts. He didn't feel surprised. However, after going through the lightning tribulation, his gold core contained the inner cores of the male and female lightning beasts. His lightning controlling technique had a qualitative leap. At this time, the lightning bolts were several times stronger than before. Even Xiaohua's body felt a little numb. This was the backlash of the lightning bolts that Qin Xian said. Even such a powerful method couldn't destroy the blood threads. No wonder Qin Xian, who couldn't gain the upper hand after several exchanges, wasn't nervous at all. He was still fighting with him methodically. This guy isn't afraid, but this young master is? Xiaohua looked at the Buddha's light that blocked the black flames a few feet away. No matter if it was the black flames or the blood threads, once they touched the Buddha's light, they were like snowflakes meeting fire. They instantly melted. Xiaohua sneered again. At worst, this young master will use the Buddhist sex techniques to face the enemy. I'll use the innate true water to kill this guy. Humph. Furthermore, in the end, I had to sacrifice my cultivation base to kill you with my spiritual flame. Thinking to this point, Xiaohua's courage was boosted. He pulled with both hands, and another 100 bolts of heavenly lightning fell. Seeing Xiaohua easily draw the heavenly lightning to extinguish his black flames, Qin Xian's heart was in turmoil. He really didn't expect Xiaohua to have such a trick up his sleeve. Don't hesitate anymore. Qin Xian steeled his heart and began to recite the cryptic syllables. As he recited the syllables, Qin Xian's lower body gradually became blurry. Damn it, who said that the people of the demon realm only know how to use demonic tools? When Xiaohua heard this inexplicable syllable, he suddenly felt uneasy in his heart. He cursed in his heart and continuously used the lightning controlling technique. Heavenly lightning fell down, wanting to destroy the space surrounded by the black flames. Roar! From below Qin Xian's body, countless black flames mixed with blood-red light surged out and let out a strange roar. The black flames then formed all kinds of shapes, and the strange roar came from these shapes. These black flames spread towards Xiaohua like a tide, as if countless ants were rushing towards a lonely piece of bone. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across the area, and he immediately understood that these numerous shapes all contained different types of demonic beast souls. These demonic beast souls formed something like a demonic array to attack him. If these black flames and demonic beast souls pounced on him, he would become a delicacy in the mouths of these demonic beast souls. It's time! Xiaohua calculated for a moment, and waved his hand. After a thick bolt of heavenly lightning fell, the wishful staff appeared in his hand again. Quick! Xiaohua pointed his finger at the yin-yang sword gourd. 2 green and red sword lights flew out from the sword gourd and drew 2 arcs in the air, flying towards Qin Xian's head. Humph, boring! Qin Xian waved his hand very naturally, and another blood-red light emerged from the black flames, blocking in front of the green and red sword lights. He also held the wolf-tooth mace in his hand, and his devil sense fell on Xiaohua's wishful staff. The green and red sword lights were the same as before. When they flew to the top of Qin Xian's head, they were blocked by the blood-red light, and then they also retreated. But after retreating a few inches, they suddenly accelerated, and from the sides of the blood-red light, they fell straight on Qin Xian's neck. The green and red sword lights were so fast and so flexible, it was simply beyond Qin Xian's expectations. When Qin Xian realized it, the sword lights had already surrounded his huge neck and slashed. No, these are not the 2 flying swords just now. By the time Qin Xian could tell that one of the 2 sword lights was scarlet red and the other was azure, and not a mix of azure and red, he was scared out of his wits. He even cried out, This seems to be Spirit Slayer. Unfortunately, he didn't have time to say the 2 words, primordial light, before the green and red sword lights twisted around his neck, and a bloody mark appeared on his neck. With a loud pun, the huge head soared from his neck, and from where the head was cut off, black gas and blood-red light rushed out. Whoop! Like the whistling of the wind, all the black flames, black gas, and blood-red light lost control, and like 10,000 streams returning to the origin, they poured into the soaring black gas and blood-red light. Qin Xian's giant body began to collapse, and streams of black gas rolled out from his body. Huh! The deterrents that had been suppressing Xiaohua also receded like a tide, and Xiaohua couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He knew in his heart that under his calculations, this Qing Xian was finally killed. What a scary but not dangerous experience! Thinking about the somewhat difficult fight just now, Xiao Hua was extremely emotional. He pointed his finger at the sword gourd, and the spirit execution primordial light fell into the sword gourd again. He glanced at Zhang Qingxiao, who had stopped to rest. At this moment, Zhang Qingxiao's body was still surrounded by black gas, and the blood-red light didn't disappear because of Qing Xian's extermination. This is a bit troublesome, Xiao Hua thought, and his figure was about to fly over. However, at this moment, an extremely cold and unfamiliar voice came from the collapsing black gas of Qin Xian. Eh? You little bug, you actually have the spirit execution primordial light. Moreover, you actually know how to control this ancient killing aura. Looking at the method, it must be that bastard Di Luo who told you, right? Who? Xiao Hua was shocked, and hurriedly stabilized his body. However, the black flames that had originally retreated suddenly changed color, and all of them turned scarlet, and once again surrounded the surroundings. D. Blood drop paradise? Looking at the space that looked like a huge drop of blood, and the scarlet walls, Xiao Hua seemed to have thought of something, and with a look of disbelief, he looked at the black gas that was still rolling in the center of the space, and said, You actually still have blood refinement after cultivating the devil flame? Little bug! You know the cultivation methods of the devil realm very well. The voice was very unfamiliar, and Xiao Hua felt that it definitely wasn't Qin Xian, and definitely not Yin Meng. Since you can understand the sword cultivation methods, and also the Buddhist techniques, and even control the spirit execution primordial light, then why can't I understand the devil flame and the blood drop paradise? You're not Yin Meng, and you're not Qin Xian. Who are you? Xiao Hua held the yin-yang sword gourd tightly in his hand, and only then did he feel a trace of safety in his heart, and couldn't help but ask. Didn't you already hear of my name before? Don't you also know about the blood drop paradise? The voice was neither fast nor slow, and said indifferently. Jipeng? You're really Jipeng? Xiao Hua looked at the rolling black gas, but didn't see any demons appear, and couldn't help but be surprised. Weren't you at Million Ming Mountains? When did you come to the Dawn Rain continent? However, Jipeng didn't answer him, and countless woo-woo sounds came from the black gas. The rhythm was very strange, and hearing it gave Xiao Hua goosebumps all over his body. Xiao Hua's mind raced. Although the voice didn't admit that it was the devil general Jipeng, but other than Jipeng, Xiao Hua couldn't think of any other devil general. Moreover, Zhang Qingxiao had said clearly that she was most afraid of this Jipeng, and even the method that Qing Xian used to deal with Zhang Qingxiao was taught by Jipeng. Of course, Xiao Hua now understood that Qing Xian wasn't the only one in Yin Meng's body. There was also Jipeng. The one who had restrained Zhang Qingxiao might not have been Qin Xian. It was most likely Jipeng. Moreover, what made Xiao Hua most nervous was that when Zhang Qingxiao ordered Xiao Hua to use the spirit-slaying origin light to kill Jipeng, it was based on the assumption that Jipeng possessed the body of a cultivator from the Dawn Rain continent. For example, although Qin Xian was the devil general of the devil realm, and just cutting off his head wouldn't necessarily kill Qin Xian, he was currently possessing Yin Meng. Although Qin Xian had already revealed his devil body, cutting off his head could still kill Yin Meng, and similarly, Qin Xian. But now, Xiao Hua's spirit-slaying origin light had already succeeded and killed Yin Meng and Qin Xian, but Jipeng, who Zhang Qingxiao was most afraid of, had appeared again. What method could Xiao Hua use to deal with Jipeng? Was it still the spirit-slaying origin light that Zhang Qingxiao was most confident in? Furthermore, based on the current situation, it was needless to say that Jipeng's spirit clone, like Qin Xian, had always been with Yin Meng in the heavenly demonic sect. He must have seen everything that Zhang Qingxiao had done. Qin Xian's anger towards Zhang Qingxiao was also because of Jipeng. Qin Xian wanted to replace Zhang Qingxiao, so he might not necessarily want Zhang Qingxiao's life. However, Jipeng would definitely want Zhang Qingxiao's life for betraying him. In that case, Xiaohua had to fight Jiping to the death. Swift! When he thought up to here, Xiaohua didn't dare hesitate any longer. He pointed with his finger, and then 2 green and red sword lights appeared within the yin-yang sword gourd, and they drew 2 arcs in midair before falling into the black chi once more. -11. Chapter 27:34. With a clear swoosh, a ball of blood suddenly sprayed out from where the sword light landed. This blood light was the size of a basin, and it just happened to block the sword light. The green and red sword light slightly paused in midair, and then separated, falling towards the edge of the blood light. However, the blood light was as intelligent as the sword light. At the same time, it also split into 2, and once again blocked the sword light from falling. Now, after several attempts, the spirit execution vital light was unable to pierce through the black gas. Kill! Xiaohua's face was stunned, and he urged the vital light again. With a swoosh, the brilliance of the 2 sword lights increased, and they directly pierced into the blood light. Hiss, hiss, hiss! Like cold water falling into a pot of oil, the entire blood light exploded. However, just as the sword light broke through the blood light and landed again, 2 balls of blood spurted out from the black gas. The sword light landed squarely on the balls of blood. With a clang sound, the sword light immediately became much dimmer. Not good! Xiaohua was greatly alarmed, and he hurriedly urged the yin-yang sword gourd. Unexpectedly, the blood seemed to have an extremely strong suction force, and the 2 flying swords were actually unable to break free. Damn it! Xiaohua's gold core surged, and his magic power rushed out. The yin-yang sword gourd flashed with golden light, and with a swoosh, the mouth of the sword gourd also suddenly released a huge force. With 2 swoosh sounds, the green and red sword light finally broke free from the blood and flew back. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over, and it was precisely the flying sword that fell into the sword gourd. The originally sparkling and translucent flying sword now had some specks of blood on it, and it was obviously stained by the blood. He couldn't help but feel a bit of heartache, and he knew that it would take a lot of effort to get rid of the blood. Eh? Little bug, you really have a lot of tricks! That cold voice once again came out from the rolling black gas. However, just relying on this incomplete spirit execution vital light, you still aren't this lord's opponent. Humph! Xiaohua sneered. He slapped his hand and took out the ocean-overturning seal. Under the urging of his magic power, the coiling dragon held the seal in its mouth and smashed it towards the black gas. Its might was clearly several times stronger than before it condensed its core. Ha 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 ha! How can these worthless transcendent treasures hurt me? Jiping laughed loudly. This time, there was no need for any blood-red light. A ball of black flames flew out, and like a blooming lotus, it stopped the ocean-overturning seal. The ocean-overturning seal tumbled a few times, but it was unable to land. Little bug, your magic weapon is getting worse. Jiping chuckled. The black gas vibrated violently and shrank rapidly. Countless blood vessels surged out of the black gas and wrapped around it. A demon body that was close to 15 meters in size appeared in front of Xiaohua's eyes, flashing with a blood-red brilliance. Hiss! It's really you! Looking at the demon body that was 3 meters taller than Qin Xian, then looking at the extremely ugly face of the demon body, Xiaohua's eyes revealed a thoughtful expression as he spoke coldly. That's right, the current Jiping was the one that Xiaohua had seen in the demon's den on Thousand Jiang Peak when he was still a rogue cultivator several decades ago. It was that huge statue, that tall, blood-red, and ugly demon. Even Jiping's tall and protruding forehead, as well as his upturned nose and fangs in his mouth. What surprised Xiaohua the most was that there was actually a thin membrane between the man's 2 arms that was connected to his back. It's really you! You have actually seen this lord before? Jiping was different from Qin Xian. His eyes flashed with blood-red light, and a kind of astonishment could be discerned from within. There's a statue of you under Xi's Thousand Jiang Peak! Xiaohua mocked. Do you need this young master to bring you to see it? Ha! So that's how it is! Ji-ping threw his head back and laughed loudly. His voice reverberated throughout the entire space, and the entire blood-red space shook with his laughter. Xiaohua sized up Ji-ping's entire body. It was completely blood-red, and there was no demon armor to be seen. Furthermore, Qin Xian's originally bulging muscles were now completely replaced by strange patterns. These patterns that seemed to belong to the demon world did not reveal any brilliance, and were extremely rough. As Ji-ping's forelimbs swayed, the patterns trembled slightly, as if they were emitting some kind of fluctuation. Ji-ping laughed loudly and stretched out his hand. As if reaching out to pluck the moon, the seal of tumbling sea that Xiaohua did not have time to withdraw in time was thrown into his hand. What kind of technique is this? Xiaohua was stunned. He sensed that his connection with the seal of tumbling sea had disappeared as soon as Ji-ping raised his hand. How can someone from the demon world know magic? Xiaohua hurriedly urged the magic, wanting to contact the seal of tumbling sea. Unfortunately, all his probing was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no news at all. Ha! Little worm! Although this sovereign does not have the strength to reach its peak, in this sovereign's blood-drop paradise, you can only be this sovereign's food. You still want to put up a meaningless struggle? Ji-ping laughed loudly, and the entire blood-drop paradise shook with his laughter. It was as if the entire space was laughing. Seeing that the seal of tumbling sea had fallen into Ji-ping's hands, Xiaohua could do nothing but panic. He had already released his divine consciousness, wanting to find a crack in this paradise. Ji-ping seemed to be able to sense Xiaohua's divine consciousness. He laughed and said, "You can't even break through Qin Xian's black flames. What kind of talisman are you relying on? You can forget about this sovereign's paradise. Looking at your physical body, you can actually control lightning. You must be extremely powerful. Compared to this Yin Meng or Du Peng, you must be stronger. Wait until this sovereign enjoys your physical body, then I'll go look for lightning. Hee, who knows, this sovereign's lightning cultivation might even surpass that guy's possession." Xiaohua understood. Yin Meng's corporeal body had already been killed by him, and Qin Xian had probably died along with Yin Meng. As for this Ji-ping, he had used some kind of mystical ability from the demon realm to survive. What he needed to do now was to find a suitable corporeal body to possess and survive. And Xiaohua was his best target. Thinking about possession, Xiaohua's heart calmed down. He naturally thought of his sealed Naiwen palace and the little white dragon in his soul. Although the little white dragon had gone through a lightning tribulation and was now weak, it could not be disturbed. However, now that it was a matter of life and death, it had no choice but to put in some effort. Others might be afraid of this demon general's possession, but did Xiaohua need to be afraid? Of course, Xiaohua's face still showed fear. He was clearly very afraid. Ji-ping waved his hand, and the blood-red hand grabbed the seal of tumbling sea. This magic treasure that even third-grade illusory sword cultivators feared was now in Ji-ping's hands, like a child's toy. Hee, the quality of this magic treasure is really not bad. If it is cultivated properly, it can really step into the ranks of spiritual weapons. Previously, this sovereign really made a mistake, Ji-ping said, indeed 3 times in one breath. It was obvious that he admired the seal of tumbling sea. Then, Ji-ping glanced at Xiaohua, and the smile on his ugly face became even wider. He said, "What other good things do you have? Why don't you let this sovereign take a look? Perhaps this sovereign will be happy and leave you a remnant soul. I'll let you enter the cycle of reincarnation." Humph, Xiaohua sneered, and the fear on his face lessened. He waved his hand and tried the lightning controlling technique. As expected, this blood-drop paradise was even more sealed than Qin Xian's black flames. None of the lightning flashed. "Don't be delusional." The fluctuation of the spell immediately attracted Ji-ping's attention. He sneered and said, "Although Lei Ting's lightning-controlling technique is powerful, he was still injured by this sovereign in this sovereign's blood-drop paradise. If even he can't do it, how can you, a disciple, succeed?" As he spoke, Ji-ping looked at the other side of the blood-drop paradise. The Buddha's saraira was also dimming in the blood drop paradise. However, the Buddhist mantras were still coming out of the Buddha's mouth and landing on the black gas. Xiaohua was afraid that if the mantras were to stop, something would happen to Zhang Qishao. Evil creature! Jipeng looked at Zhang Qishao with a cold gaze. He scolded and grabbed with his hand. Several rays of blood-red light landed on Zhang Qingxiao's body. In an instant, he caught the black gas and brought it in front of him. As for Xiaohua's Buddha saraira, Jipeng didn't even care about it. It was as if it was harmless to him. Xiaohua was helpless. He urged the saraira to return to the top of his head and put away the Buddha seal. He opened his compassionate eyes and looked at Jipeng. Although Buddhism is the nemesis of demonic cultivators, it seems to be effective against the demonic cultivators of the demonic world as well. It's a pity that my cultivation level is too low. In his eyes, I'm just a side dish. Xiaohua thought to himself. Now I'm afraid I have to lure Jipeng into my Naiwen palace and think of another way. Xiaohua knew that he was a golden core cultivator. His soul had already solidified. Jipeng definitely wouldn't dare to rush into his soul to possess him. He was confident that he would first occupy Xiaohua's Naiwen palace and gradually nibble away at it. Only then would he have a chance to succeed. Just as Xiaohua was thinking, Jipeng grabbed with his hand again. The black gas and wisps of blood wrapped around Zhang Qishao fell into his blood-red hand. Zhang Qingxiao's figure appeared in mid-air. At that moment, Zhang Qishao looked very lonely. Her previous arrogant aura was long gone. Her hands drooped slightly, and her face was extremely pale. As for her eyes, they were looking at the blood below her. She didn't dare to look at Jipeng at all. Evil creature! Jipeng didn't let Zhang Qishao off. He scolded. I thought that you were developing well in the cultivation 3 kingdoms. That's why I sent a wisp of my spirit to follow Qin Xian to see you. I wanted to give you some benefits. However, I didn't expect that you would actually forget everything this sovereign told you and even want to kill this sovereign. You're really bold. Zhang Qishao lowered her head and didn't answer. Don't think that I'll forgive you just because I'm satisfied with what you've done. Jipeng continued to berate her. Since I can turn you from a demonic beast into a human, I can naturally turn you from a human into a demonic beast. Even a secular animal. As he spoke, Jipeng grabbed with his hand. Streaks of blood flashed from his hand and shot towards Zhang Qingxiao's body. Roar! A strange roar came from Zhang Qingxiao's mouth. She raised her head. Her fearful eyes flashed with shock and anger. Then she looked at Xiaohua. Her eyes flashed with determination. -11. Chapter 27:35. Second senior brother. Xiaohua saw something in Zhang Qingxiao's eyes and hurriedly called out. You want to die? Do you think you can die? Jipeng sneered. He flicked his middle finger, and a streak of blood fell on Zhang Qingxiao's face. Zhang Qingxiao's body was slightly sluggish, and he could no longer move. Then, Jipeng stretched out his hand, and his originally long arm reached between Zhang Qingxiao's eyebrows. Go! Xiaohua could no longer allow Jipeng to wreak havoc. With a wave of his hand, he took out the Kunlun mirror. Under the urging of his transcendence energy, a ray of blue light flashed and shot towards Jipeng. Crack! With a crisp sound, the blue light quickly hit Jipeng's arm. That blood-red arm suddenly congealed, and cracks quickly appeared on it. Oh? This is the Kunlun mirror? Isn't it? Jipeng exclaimed. He did not dare to be careless, and the blood on his arm quickly surged, wanting to protect the congealed part. But just as he moved, a crack sounded. That blood-red arm actually broke, and the congealed part in the middle fell into the air. Hiss! It really is the Kunlun mirror! Jipeng sucked in a breath of cold air, but there was no fear in his tone. Instead, it was a kind of surprise. Xiaohua's divine telekinesis swept over, and the corner of his mouth revealed a bitter smile. The congealed blood fell into the blood drop cave and quickly melted, becoming one with the cave. Looking at Ji Ping's broken arm, with the surging blood, it quickly reconnected, and a whole arm touched between Zhang Qingxiao's eyebrows. Roar! Zhang Qingxiao's originally immobile body suddenly moved again. He raised his head and roared, lying on the ground. The black gas and blood light around his body continued to surge, and the human figure continued to expand. Many protrusions had already pierced through his clothes. Soon, a body that looked like a cow and a horse appeared in midair. This body was huge, probably more than 10 feet long. Hiss! This is the statue of that magical beast at the bottom of the Thousand Jiang Peak. Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization. The one who possessed Zhang Qingxiao's body was not a devil, but a magical beast. Although Zhang Qingxiao had devoured the primordial spirit of the magical beast, he still had the memories of the magical beast. Furthermore, the primordial spirit of the magical beast was extremely powerful. Although Zhang Qingxiao had devoured the magical beast had already imperceptibly influenced Zhang Qingxiao over the years. Under these circumstances, it was no wonder that Zhang Qingxiao was extremely fearful of Ji Ping, afraid to see him. He didn't even dare to mention Ji Peng. This was because Qin Fengmin was Ji Peng's mount. Oh? No wonder! Just when Xiao Hua realized what had happened, Ji Peng's face also showed a look of understanding. He laughed and said, "So you actually devoured Di Luo's primordial spirit? It wasn't Di Luo who possessed you. You even used a secret technique to erase the devil's soul imprint. If that's the case, I can understand what happened to Di Luo." While speaking, Ji Ping pointed his finger at Di Luo's head, which was still blurry. As if a curtain had been lifted, Zhang Qingxiao's face was revealed on Di Luo's head. Although Zhang Qingxiao's face was full of fear, his eyes were filled with shame. Ha ha ha, Zhang Qingxiao, oh Zhang Qingxiao, being the sovereign's mount is a great opportunity for you. Do you think a little human cultivator like you can enter this sovereign's eyes? If you didn't have Di Luo's primordial spirit, I would have treated you as an ant and wouldn't even look at you, Ji Ping said with a smile. However, in the eyes of the helpless Xiao Hua, who was holding the Kunlun mirror in his hand, he didn't know whether to attack or not. His smile was very strange. Even in the devil world, there are many mounts for me to choose from. Di Luo is the only one, because I chose you. It's fate that Di Luo chose you. When Ji Ping talked about Di Luo's background, he was a little vague, as if he didn't want Zhang Qingxiao to know. Well, since even the devil's soul imprint has been erased, you can't go back to the devil realm. I can only think of a way for you here in the Xiaoyu continent. Ji Ping seemed to be very concerned about Di Luo. He pointed his finger at Di Luo and scolded. Di Luo, what are you waiting for? Immediately, Di Luo's body started to shake violently. The blood-red light rushed from his feet to his head. Roar! Zhang Qingxiao's head roared, as if it was resisting the flood of Di Luo's memories. However, looking at Ji Ping's smiling eyes, Xiao Hua knew that Zhang Qingxiao definitely couldn't resist this devil general's methods. When the blood-red light filled Di Luo's body, Zhang Qingxiao's eyes became dull. That would be the moment when Zhang Qingxiao's primordial spirit disappeared. Go to hell. Xiao Hua knew that he couldn't wait any longer. Even if he wanted to lure Ji Ping into his trap, he couldn't do it now. He couldn't wait for Zhang Qingxiao to disappear from the world and then drag out an ignoble existence. Xiao Hua knew that the Kunlun mirror couldn't work, and the flying swords and other things in his space wouldn't be effective either. So, he simply put away his magic weapons and sword gourd, and flew towards Ji Ping with the wishful staff in his hand. Ji Ping laughed out loud when he saw Xiao Hua flying towards him. He raised his hand and the blood-red light rushed towards Xiao Hua and said, Haha, Di Luo gave me the Heavenly Devil Sect. Are you going to give me the Thunder-controlling sect as well? With me possessing your body, it would be easy for you to become the head of the Thunder-controlling sect. Your staff isn't a devil weapon? Ji Ping's blood-red light was like a blood spirit bearing its fangs and brandishing its claws, rushing towards Xiao Hua without fear. However, the blood-red light was destroyed by Xiao Hua's wishful staff in an instant. It didn't show any power at all. Once again, Ji Ping had not expected this. Oh, this thing seems to be like the soul-slaying primordial light. It's the embryonic form of an ancient monster. Ji Ping suddenly woke up and couldn't help but be eager to give it a try. You really are giving me a body to possess. I didn't expect you to have so many good things. This old man can't wait to see how many secrets you have. However, when Ji Ping spoke to this point, he looked at the Buddha relic above Xiaohua's head. Extreme disgust appeared in his blood-red eyes as he said indifferently, "However, this venerated one really hates the Buddhist sex relics. Before I possess him, it is best that I destroy this thing." As he spoke, Ji Ping opened his mouth and spat out a mass of blood-red light. The blood-red light was like a spell. It suddenly expanded in midair, like a layer of red gauze, and immediately covered the Buddha Sarira. The dim Buddha light couldn't penetrate the blood-red light. Inside the Buddha Sarira, Xiaohua's primordial spirit felt a sense of suffocation. Goo goo. Ji Ping's mouth suddenly chanted an inexplicable rhythm, like a curse. The blood-red light covering the Buddha Sarira flourished, and many drops of blood rushed out from the nearby blood-dripping grotto heaven and landed on the blood-red light. The entire blood-red light was like a blood stain, rapidly corroding the Buddha light. It looked like it was going to swallow the Buddha Sarira into the blood stain. Xiaohua panicked. Facing this strange Ji Ping from the devil realm, his strength comparable to a nascent soul stage cultivator was simply unable to be used. All of his methods were simply ineffective. It really felt like, when it's time to use it, it's time to regret not having enough knowledge. Fight. Xiaohua could only wave the wishful staff and do his best to get close to Ji Ping. Tsk tisk. Ji Ping opened his mouth as if he had seen a delicious meal. He praised, "The Buddha Sarira has been cultivated by you to this extent. In this Lord's eyes, it's like a fat sheep. Seeing that you're so attentive, this Lord won't completely swallow your primordial spirit." As he spoke, Ji Ping let out 2 startled cries. Then he said, Your Buddha Sarira. How did you cultivate it? Why does it resemble a Buddha? If it were to be swallowed out of thin air, would it really be a waste? Later on, if I could attain the position of Buddha, wouldn't this Lord be half a step into the Devil Commander, or even the Devil Lord? As for the second shock, Ji Ping did not cry out. Instead, he looked at his arm. Because Xiaohua had flown over, the previous blood-red light had been shattered by Xiaohua. Ji Ping stretched out his arm and blocked the wishful staff with his fist. Xiaohua's wishful staff was amazing. Seeing that Ji Ping's fist was instantly shattered by the wishful staff, the blood-red light on Ji Ping's arm immediately poured in and formed a perfect fist again. However, this fist simply existed for a moment under the wishful staff before it was destroyed again. Of course, the arm connected to the fist surged again, and the blood-red light formed a fist again. This fist was naturally shattered under Xiaohua's wishful staff. However, in a few moments, it had repeated several times. Ji Ping could not help but be shocked. His gaze fell from the Buddha Sarira and stared at the wishful staff for a long time. His eyes narrowed slightly as if he was recalling something. Suddenly, a blood-red light flashed in front of his eyes. He said with joy, This is the wishful staff of the 5 elements? Yes, this is it. This is not in the 5 elements. However, just as Ji Ping's joy was born, and before he could reach out his blood-red hand to take the wishful staff, he heard a sorrowful cry from Di Luo's body. It was the voice of Zhang Qishao. Roar! My will is against heaven. I do not want to leave the human world. My will is to return to heaven. I do not want to leave my heart. My will is to enter the devil. Blood stains the sky. As Zhang Qingxiao's voice came out, Di Luo's huge body flashed rapidly, and suddenly shrank as if he was about to turn back into a human form. The blood-red light outside his body was also forced back a few feet. Huh! Ji Ping's attention was once again attracted by Zhang Qishao. He really did not expect that Di Luo, who had always been under his crotch, would suddenly change today. Although your will is against heaven, you do not have the power to go against heaven. You are still a little beast under my feet. Ji Ping laughed sinisterly. He opened his mouth again and spat out another mouthful of blood. At this moment, Xiao Hua's figure suddenly moved. As fast as lightning and as light as the wind, he instantly appeared under Ji Ping's abdomen. Ha ha ha! A familiar voice came from Ji Ping's abdomen. Suddenly, a gap opened up in the blood-red abdomen. Qin Xian's head and arm poked out from the gap, holding the mace in his hand. -11. Chapter 2736. Wu! The mace smashed towards Xiao Hua as he shouted. This sovereign knew you were the most cunning. I've been waiting here for a long time. Seeing that the mace was about to trap him, although Xiao Hua was shocked, he did not seem to be in a hurry. He extended his wishful staff and cleverly placed it on top of the mace. His entire body once again flew towards Ji Ping's chest. Oh! Qin Xian had clearly never seen such a marvelous staff technique, and was unconsciously stunned. Now's the time! Seeing that Ji Ping was close, Xiao Hua gritted his teeth, opened his mouth, and spat out the spiritual fire that he had been brewing. As the spiritual fire rushed into the air, Xiao Hua waved his hand and simultaneously used the divine fire art. The scarlet spiritual fire was instantly scattered by Xiao Hua into a net. There was simply no time for Ji Ping or Qin Xian to react. The nearly 5 zhang tall demonic body was completely wrapped up. Xiao Hua used up 50% of his magic power to use the spiritual fire to trap Ji Ping's enormous demonic body. Scarlet! True fire! Ji Ping's ugly face revealed extreme shock. Qin Xian, who was on his stomach, was also stunned. However, Xiao Hua simply did not answer them. He accurately used the divine fire art one after another, causing the fire net to rapidly shrink. Squeak, squeak! Countless soft sounds came from within the fire net. Regardless of whether it was the black flames or the blood-red light, once they touched the scarlet spiritual fire, they all dissipated into thin air. At this time, Ji Ping did not dare to speak anymore. He hastily shrank his demonic body. However, he could only shrink to about 3 zhang before he could no longer shrink any further. At this time, the 3 zhang tall black gas mixed with the blood-red light was completely covered by the fire net. Squeak, squeak! Countless light black smoke rose from where the fire, black gas, and blood-red light came in contact with each other. Ji Ping also let out a rare blood-curdling scream. Whoop! Like a hurricane, the black gas suddenly swelled and a ball of black flames rushed out from the black gas, instantly pushing the fire net several feet high. At the same time, dark brown blood spurted out from the black flames and landed on the fire net. The fire net of the spiritual fire immediately became much dimmer. Ha! Following a wild laugh, a blood-red shadow rushed out from the black flames and instantly rushed through the fire net. Although the blood-red shadow's blood-red light was suddenly ignited by the fire net, the blood-red shadow immediately spat out a mouthful of blood and extinguished the fire. However, the blood-red shadow was already extremely thin. Xiao Hua immediately understood Ji Ping's plan when he saw the blood shadow rushing towards Zhang Qishao, who was gradually taking on a human form. Go! The primordial spirit within the Buddha's sarira waved his hand, and the clear water bottle appeared in his hand. Pour, following the Buddha's mudra, the innate primordial water rushed towards the bloodstains surrounding the Buddha's sarira like a heavenly river. In an instant, a crack appeared in the bloodstains, and the innate primordial water rushed towards Zhang Qingxiao's surroundings, completely surrounding him. Xian! Xianming primordial water? The blood-red shadow was stunned in midair. It was Qin Xian's incredulous voice. How could such a treasure be in your hands? Oh no, this is not good! When Xiao Hua heard Qin Xian's voice, he immediately knew that he had fallen into a trap. He hurriedly looked towards the fire net. However, at this moment, his vision turned black and an arrogant voice sounded in his mind. Ha ha, little bug, how can you be my opponent? Oh no, why is your Naiwan palace sealed? Okay, how could Xiao Hua answer him? Without waiting for Ji Ping to do anything else, the primordial spirit in Xiaohua's soul immediately activated its soul strands. Thousands of soul strands suddenly rushed out of the Dharma Eye's soul mark and completely enveloped Ji Ping's blood-red shadow like tentacles. Damn it! What the hell are you? Are you still a cultivator? How do you know soul spells? Ji Ping was flustered and exasperated. It was only now that he realized that after scheming for so long, he had fallen into Xiaohua's trap. He might as well have used his methods to kill Xiaohua from the start. You want to use this half-baked soul spell to keep me here? Ji Ping's blood-red shadow was still struggling with all its might. Xiaohua's soul strands were no match for this blood-red shadow. Similarly, Qin Xian's blood-red shadow also came to help like a stream of light. Goldie, Xiaohua sneered. His consciousness entered the space and shouted, "There's a delicious meal outside!" Woo! As soon as Goldie's figure came out of the space, a kind of fear that came from the bottom of its heart emerged from Ji Ping's mouth. Demon god above, which demon god did I provoke? This seems to be Ting, right? When Goldie saw the two blood-red shadows, its eyes brightened. It swung its large tail and charged over. When Ji Ping and Qin Xian's blood-red shadows rapidly emitted blood-red light. The entire blood-drop grotto heaven began to tremble violently. Countless huge blood-red palms emerged from the grotto heaven and grabbed at Goldie. Woo! Goldie wailed, as if it was afraid. At this point, you still want to fight like a cornered beast? Watch how I destroy you! Xiaohua sneered. The Buddha's Sarira activated the innate primordial water and quickly formed a huge space around him, enveloping everything inside. You have the blood-drop grotto heaven, but I have the primordial water space. Xiaohua sneered and said to Goldie, "Go eat them!" Goldie once again swung its tail and flew towards the blood-red shadows. With a humph sound, a silver-white brilliance was already coming out of its nostrils. This time, Ji Ping and Qin Xian were really scared out of their wits. Although the blood-red light outside the primordial water rushed in without regard for their lives, and some places had already been infiltrated by blood threads, Goldie's brilliance had already enveloped the two blood-red shadows. A kind of innate fear and an irresistible force had already sealed all the divine abilities of the two demon generals. Wait a moment! At this moment, a cold voice rang out from the side. Xiaohua raised his head. It was Zhang Qixiao, whose entire body was flashing with blood-red light. Although Zhang Qixiao had not completely transformed into a human, her entire upper body had already been restored. Xiaohua frowned. He still couldn't figure out whether this was Zhang Qixiao or Di Luo. He coldly asked, "What do you want?" "Nothing else. I want to devour this Ji Ping." Zhang Qixiao also said coldly, "This is only one of Ji Ping's avatars. It only has 30% of Ji Ping's power. If you kill him today, Ji Ping will definitely know, and he will definitely rush to the three kingdoms of cultivation. At that time, you will definitely not be his opponent. If I devour this avatars, not only will I be able to get rid of Ji Ping's imprisonment, but I will also be able to evolve and become a true demon." Elector Ji Ping chose Di Luo as his mount because he liked Di Luo's ability to evolve infinitely. Xiaohua looked at Zhang Qixiao, wondering if he should believe her. However, the blood-red threads outside the primordial water were already baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. He really didn't have the time nor the means to judge. "Goldie, wait a moment!" Xiaohua ordered. When Goldie stopped, Xiaohua coldly said, "If you are Zhang Qixiao, I will naturally let you devour me. But if you are Di Luo, how can I let you have your way? Believe it or not, it's up to you." Zhang Qixiao said disdainfully as usual. "Go!" Xiaohua waved his hand, indicating that he agreed. Zhang Qixiao's forelegs moved slightly and landed beside Goldie. She also looked at Goldie with some fear. She opened her mouth and a blood-red light fell on Ji Ping's blood shadow. "Ha ha, Di Luo!" Ji Ping suddenly laughed out loud. Unfortunately, before his laughter could be heard, Xiaohua sneered. "If it was before, I wouldn't have trusted my second senior brother. But now, With your sowing dissension, I can trust him. A demon is a demon. Ah? Ji Ping didn't expect that he would be so clever and make a fool of himself. He was extremely frightened and shouted, Diluo, how dare you devour me? When I come back, I will definitely. Before Ji Ping could finish his threat, the blood-red light covered him. With a roar, Zhang Qingxiao swallowed him into her mouth. Then, the blood-red light around Zhang Qingxiao's body became brighter and brighter, completely covering Ji Ping. The blood-red threads that were forcibly seeping into the primordial water also stopped abruptly. You can taste it now! Xiaohua indifferently ordered Goldie. Roar! Goldie was overjoyed. It sniffed and swallowed Qing Xian into its stomach. Che! Goldie burped and stretched. Thank you, Mother! Goldie, you still need to cultivate more. Thinking of Goldie's fear just now, Xiaohua frowned and said, In the future, Mother's enemies will become more and more powerful. Only by cultivating can you protect Mother. Goldie's eyes lit up when he heard the words, protect Mother. He hurriedly said, Boy understands. Boy will go back and cultivate properly. And that's Mother's good child. Xiaohua actually didn't know how Goldie cultivated, so she just praised it and sent it back to the space. After sending Goldie back, Xiaohua looked around. The primordial water formed countless whirlpools that blocked the surroundings, so she didn't know what was going on outside. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua activated the Buddha Saraira and opened a small gap in the primordial water. Her divine sense carefully passed through, and she saw that outside the primordial water was the original blood-drop paradise. At this moment, the four walls of the blood-dripping paradise had already calmed down. The blood stains that had stretched out like ferocious ghosts were frozen in midair. Although they were no longer wreaking havoc, they did not shrink back either. There were so many blood stains that they filled the entire space. It was a very strange sight. The blood-drop paradise was still sealed, and there was no sunlight or snow falling. Only that kind of blood-red brilliance illuminated the space. It's finally over! Xiaohua looked at the quiet space and couldn't help but sigh in relief. She activated the Buddha Saraira and stored the primordial water. Then, Xiaohua waited for a while and stored the Buddha Saraira whose Buddha light had already dimmed into her body. Looking at the entire space again, the only thing that was still moving was the blood cocoon around Zhang Qingxiao's body. This blood cocoon was moving up and down rapidly as if it was breathing. The blood-red brilliance swayed from time to time, like a flickering candle. The brilliance lingered around and merged with the blood light on the walls. -11. Chapter 2737. The black gas and black flames trapped by Xiaohua's spirit light had already been burned to a size of 1 zhang. However, the spirit light was still as inconspicuous as before. It didn't seem to have any heat and didn't seem to exist at all. Xiaohua's finger moved slightly. He wanted to activate the divine flame art once more to extinguish the last of the black qi and black flames. However, his eyebrows twitched. He looked at the blood cocoon that was still surging, and seemed to have thought of something. He pointed with his finger, and the spiritual fire stopped. It only tightly trapped the black qi and black flames, and no longer burned them. After checking again, Xiaohua's eyes flashed with a pensive expression. He frowned and sat cross-legged in a corner of the blood-drop grotto heaven, waiting for Zhang Qingxiao to come out of the cocoon. This wait lasted for more than 3 days. Seeing that the blood cocoon around Zhang Qingxiao's body was indeed shrinking, Xiaohua knew that it should be going smoothly. Sure enough, in the end, a naked human figure appeared from the blood cocoon. The human figure was covered in a blood-red color, and there were some faint strange patterns flashing within the blood-red color. However, these patterns were like a flash in the pan as they floated out from the blood-red color. There was a burst of cryptic fluctuations and then it disappeared. Even Xiaohua's Buddhist sense couldn't see it clearly. Roar! The blood-red human figure slowly stood up in the air. The face, which was also blood-red, was even more strange. It was flat and there were no protrusions or facial features. Xiaohua's face was calm. His body floated up as the human figure stood up. He put his hands behind his back and looked indifferently. In what seemed like an instant, the human figure's flat face suddenly exploded and Zhang Qingxiao's boundlessly handsome face suddenly appeared. Immediately, the blood-red color on the human figure's body disappeared like a receding tide. The person waved his hand and a gorgeous set of clothes appeared in his hand. He slowly put it on in front of Xiao Hua. After putting on the clothes, the person slowly turned around. His face was still Zhang Qingxiao's face from 3 days ago. His gaze was still calm and there was occasionally a flash of red light in his eyes. However, facing Xiao Hua's gaze, there was a kind of gaze that Xiao Hua had never seen in Zhang Qingxiao's eyes before: shame. A Zhang Qingxiao with shame. Was she still Zhang Qingxiao? Although this shame only lasted for a moment, Xiao Hua could see that after the shame, Zhang Qingxiao's eyes were calm. No matter how Xiao Hua looked at it, it wasn't calm. You are Zhang Qingxiao? Xiao Hua looked at her for a moment and asked in a deep voice. I'm not. Zhang Qingxiao shook her head slightly. Xiao Hua's heart sank. I'm just a lowly magical beast in the devil realm. A body possessed by a magical beast, Zhang Qingxiao said coldly. In an instant, Xiao Hua understood. The always arrogant Zhang Qingxiao, the always arrogant Zhang Qingxiao, the always arrogant Zhang Qingxiao, the always arrogant Zhang Qingxiao. The shame in her eyes just now was not because she was naked in front of him, but because she revealed the details of a magical beast's possession in front of him. In fact, it was also the shame of Zhang Qingxiao revealing her true form as a magical beast in front of him. With the arrogance of a person, who else could it be but Zhang Qingxiao? At least it wasn't that Di Luo. Xiao Hua smiled, bowed and said, Congratulations, second senior brother. Zhang Qingxiao stared blankly and said indifferently, I'm just a lowly magical beast in the devil realm. There are billions of magical beasts like this. In this life, I'm afraid I can't escape this identity. You, a gold core cultivator, no longer need to call me brother. Haha, congratulations second senior brother for your great improvement in cultivation. Xiao Hua was still smiling. Also congratulations second senior brother for revealing your naked body in front of Zhang Yutong and revealing it in front of this little brother. You. Your grandmother. Zhang Qingxiao's snow-white face flushed red. She angrily scolded. You took advantage of me and now you're still pretending to be obedient. When you're naked, send me a message talisman and I'll call my heavenly demon sex female disciples to come and watch. Haha, I'm afraid second senior brother won't be able to wait for this opportunity. Xiao Hua looked up to the sky and laughed loudly. His figure slowly flew towards Zhang Qingxiao. Zhang Qingxiao was a bit hesitant and even more puzzled. Xiao Hua flew in front of Zhang Qingxiao and stretched out his hand. Second senior brother, I remember when I first arrived at Yellow Flower Ridge, I was often confused. At that time, I didn't have cultivation. It seems that there was one time when I fell into the cold pond. It was second senior brother who happened to pass by the cold pond and saved me. That day, I was clamped under your arm. Now, it's been dozens of years and you and I still haven't hugged. Come, give me a hug. Let me feel the warmth of that day again. Why don't I remember such a thing? Zhang Qingxiao looked at Xiao Hua's arms and was slightly surprised. Then, she became alert again. Yes, between cultivators, except for husband and wife, even the intimate contact between martial brothers was very rare. No matter if they were familiar or unfamiliar, cultivators would try their best to maintain a certain safe distance between each other. They would never let others get close. Especially now, when Zhang Qingxiao's identity was uncertain, who would stretch out their arms to hug Xiao Hua like this? However, looking at Xiao Hua's eyes, Zhang Qingxiao's heart was slightly warm. The corner of her mouth hung a smile. She opened her arms and hugged Xiao Hua without fear. Although, it was just a simple hug, just a simple crossing of arms, just a few light pats from Xiao Hua on Zhang Qingxiao's back, just a few moments, the familial affection in this hug was more mellow and solid than any friendship between cultivators, any sworn brothers, any sworn brothers, any sworn brothers. all of this was more mellow and solid. Zhang Qinxiao gently smiled, pushed Xiaohua away, and said, "Your grandmother, don't tell me that after seeing my naked body, you want to repay me with your body? I already have Zhang Yutong in my heart. I won't be interested in a man like you. I advise you. You better give up early. Ha ha ha, you only have one Zhang Yutong. This young master has Fairy Hong Xia and Shui Shui, 2 people, so I won't give my heart to you. Don't think too much." Xiaohua also pulled away and said with a smile, "Sigh, little junior brother." Hearing Xiaohua's laughter, Zhang Qishao sighed and said, "Don't blame me for my coldness just now. I really don't want people to know that I am the lowest demon beast in the demon realm. Hee hee, heroes don't ask where they come from, miracles are done by people," Xiaohua said with a smile. "No matter if it is a demon beast, a demon, or even a cultivator or a demon beast, they all have the right to cultivate. Since the heavens let you take this step. Naturally, there is a reason for the heavens. Why do you have to blame the heavens and accuse others? Although it is so, a beast is a beast, a human is a human. I still don't want people to know," Zhang Qishao said indifferently. Don't worry. Second senior brother. Little brother can make a heart oath," Xiaohua said with a smile. "No need." Zhang Qishao hurriedly raised her hand. "If you... I still can't believe it, then there is no one in this world that I can trust. Xiaohua. If I reveal second senior brother's secret, under the heavens, I will no longer be able to reach the Tao." Xiaohua didn't stop because of Zhang Qingxiao's dissuasion, and still made a heart oath. Zhang Qingxiao's eyes flashed with gratitude, but her mouth was still unforgiving. "Damn it, this Xiaohua is the name that master gave you. Who knows what your original name is? This heart oath is a bit neither fish nor fowl. Second senior brother, then what do you think should be done?" Xiaohua asked with a smile. "Just be the first vice-sect leader of my heavenly demon sect," Zhang Qishao said with a smile. "I can only be at ease if you are always by my side. Don't. You'd better find someone else." Xiaohua waved his hand, then rolled his eyes and said, "Oh right, actually this Diluo doesn't seem to be simple. Didn't second senior brother say it just now? The reason why Jiping chose Diluo is because he took a fancy to some characteristic of unlimited evolution? Yes, it is indeed so," Zhang Qishao explained without hiding anything from Xiaohua. "Diluo is the lowest demon beast in the demon world, Diluo are everywhere, compared to ordinary animals like pigs and cows in the mortal world. Diluo doesn't have any attack power, they can only be food for other demon beasts. No demon cultivator or demon general has ever used a Diluo as a mount. However, according to the secret of the demon world, Diluo has a rare special ability, that is, it can devour other demons. It has the ability to devour demons." "Ah? How? How can this be?" Xiaohua was dumbfounded. "Just by eating. Can it be so powerful?" "Hee hee, how can it be so simple?" Zhang Qishao said with a smile. "This is just to say that Diluo has this ability, just like how the disciples of a cultivation family may have the bloodline of the real world, how many people can awaken it? And Diluo is even rarer. I'm afraid that 1 in a billion or 10 billion people have this ability. That's already not bad." "Then?" Xiaohua wanted to ask, but stopped after saying one word. Zhang Qishao didn't dare to ask Xiaohua. She continued. "Also, although Diluo can devour demons, it can only do so under its own power. If an ordinary Diluo devours a demon cultivator at once, then it will definitely explode and die. There won't be a second result. Therefore, even if there is such a Diluo, whether it can have the opportunity to devour the most suitable demons, and whether there will be suitable demons to devour along the way is absolutely an extremely difficult problem. Also, Diluo can't just simply devour demons, it also needs to cultivate, it also needs to practice martial arts." Then Zhang Qishao was about to tell more secrets of Diluo, but Xiaohua waved his hand, smiled and said, "Second brother, you don't need to tell me so many details, I'm just a little curious. Zhang Qishao looked at Xiaohua with deep meaning, stopped explaining, and finally said, "From Ji Peng's memory, I already know that one of the demon lords in the demon world is Di Luo. Demon lord? What's his cultivation level?" Xiaohua's eyes lit up and asked. -11. Chapter 2738. Haha, remember, the demon realm's classification is different from the Dawn Rain continents. Generally speaking, it's demons, demon soldiers, demon generals, demon marshals, demon kings, demon monarchs, demon emperors, and demon venerables. Zhang Qinshao smiled. Of course, this is only the general classification. There are still some details, and each demon realm has its own differences. Demon realm? Xiaohua asked again. Zhang Qishao frowned. She knew that if she said too much, it would affect Xiaohua's cultivation. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "You shouldn't know this with your current cultivation. Don't ask too much. You only need to remember that Ji Ping is only a demon general. You are already no match for him, let alone a demon venerables." Actually, hearing this, Xiaohua explained, that Ji Ping is only a demon general. From what I see, his cultivation is close to that of a nascent soul realm cultivator. He might not even be as powerful as a nascent soul realm cultivator. But I don't seem to be able to use my full strength. Moreover, in this blood drop paradise, I'm no match for him. Zhang Qishao nodded slightly. Looking at everything around her, she smiled and said, "It's not like you don't have the cultivation method of this blood drop paradise. I'm sure you know that in this blood drop paradise, all magic will be suppressed by the demonic blood. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth will also be blocked. Fortunately, you're a golden core cultivator and have a golden core supporting your magic power. If you were a foundation establishment cultivator, I'm afraid you'd be killed by Ji Peng as soon as you started." But Xiaohua sat cross-legged for 3 days. He wasn't just waiting for Zhang Qishao, but also reflecting on his own battle. He clearly had the cultivation level and strength, but he was unable to gain the upper hand in front of Ji Ping. Ji Ping had forced him to use the last of his spiritual fire, and he had barely managed to win by relying on Goldie and the soul thread. If Xiaohua's Naiwen Palace had not been sealed, the outcome would have been unknown. He really didn't understand. Zhang Qishao comforted him. "Besides, this is your first time facing such a fierce person from the demon realm like Ji Peng. This guy is a demon general who experienced the Battle of Imperial Demon Valley. Your battle experience can't compare to his. In the future, when you fight more, you'll naturally be able to handle him." Seeing that Zhang Qishao didn't tremble when she talked about Ji Ping, Xiaohua was happy. He shook his head and said, "Actually, I've been reflecting on it for a long time." "Oh? Tell me about it." Zhang Qishao raised her eyebrows and asked meaningfully. That's right, this was the first time the two of them had such an in-depth discussion. Their bottom lines were gradually being revealed. First of all, little brother's magical equipment is not good enough. Xiaohua stretched out a finger and said, "Although little brother has some magic treasures, I am unable to display their full power. I don't know if the quality of the magic treasures is not good enough, or if little brother's technique is not good enough. Of course, I also have some ferocious items that are similar to the spirit-slaying vital light. But they are all useless. They are far from being refined successfully. The spirit-punishing vital light could not even reach Ji Peng. As for the 5 elements wishful heaven staff, it can only be used as a weapon. It is far from being able to unleash the full potential of the staff technique." Pfft. Zhang Qishao laughed and pointed with her finger. "If your wishful staff or spirit-slaying primary light can be completed within 1,000 years, you can laugh. Such a ferocious ancient object, could it be that it had gone through countless tempering before it could become a weapon? Then, the day it became a weapon must have caused a celestial phenomenon. Your cultivation is not high enough, so this ferocious item cannot appear in the world. But little brother always feels that I do not have a suitable magic treasure." Xiaohua sighed. Then, he stretched out his hand and said, "The second thing is the technique. Second senior brother, don't you feel that? Little brother still does not have a technique? This? How would I know?" Zhang Qishao scratched his head. "Even if there aren't millions of Dharma spells on this Dawn Rain continent, there are at least several hundreds of thousands. Although it's impossible for you to see all of them, and it's also impossible for you to cultivate all of them, but you can always find a suitable Dharma spell for yourself, right?" "Perhaps." Xiaohua nodded. "Actually, second senior brother has already given little brother many jade slips. Little brother has also read them all." "Ah? You have read them all?" Zhang Qishao stared blankly. "So many jade slips, you can read them all?" However, Xiaohua did not answer Zhang Qingxiao's question. Instead, he said in distress, "Those techniques either require a high realm or are weak. Little brother does not feel good when using them." Zhang Qishao smacked her lips and seemed to have thought of something. She asked, "That's right, the dry separation pill that you wanted last time, you took it yourself, right? How many did you get?" Xiaohua looked at Zhang Qishao curiously. He knew that she did not know how many medicinal pills Bai Fengliang gave him. However, thinking about it, Zhang Qishao could be considered to be very busy every day. Knowing about this kind of medicinal pill was enough. Who would really report how many pills they had? "And I took it myself." Xiaohua thought for a moment and nodded. "About 100 pills. Damn it, no wonder," Zhang Qishao said while gnashing her teeth. "Others condense 1 or 2 pills is enough. You need 100 dry separation pills to condense your own pill. How much true essence do you have? How can those techniques used by ordinary people satisfy you? It's not a problem of true essence." Xiaohua shook his head. "Actually, most of it is because of little brother's physique." Of course, Xiaohua did not say what was special about his physique. Zhang Qishao also did not ask. "In short, your magic power far exceeds those of the same realm. And your realm is far from being comparable to your magic power. All these common techniques are not suitable for you," Zhang Qishao concluded. Then, he was a little puzzled. "Actually, your situation seems to be similar to the legendary demon." "Demon?" "Their realms are generally not comparable to ordinary cultivators. Advancing is also extremely difficult. But their magic power is several times or even dozens of times that of cultivators of the same realm. However, most of them are born with magical powers and do not need any techniques or techniques." "Che, you are." Xiaohua heard this and rolled his eyes at Zhang Qishao. Just as he was about to refute, he felt that he might hurt Zhang Qishao and immediately shut his mouth. "Humph, remember. It's a demon, not a demon beast." Although Xiaohua did not say it, Zhang Qishao also felt it. She said coldly, "In ancient times, demons were the kings that ruled the continent. But later on, demons declined and humans rose, calling them demon beasts. And demon beasts are not comparable to magical beasts. Demon beasts are a race, and there are different demon beasts within. There is no difference between humans and beasts. Even if you want to be a demon beast, they don't want you." "Oh, in ancient times?" Xiaohua's eyes lit up again. Zhang Qishao hurriedly waved her hand and said, "This is also Ji Peng's fragmented memories. I am not very clear. Don't ask too much." "Then, what should I do about this situation?" Xiaohua said with a bitter face. Naturally it would be best if we can find the demon race's techniques." Zhang Qishao said as if she did not say anything. But Xiaohua raised his eyebrows and said, "I have an idea. I don't know if it will work or not." "Say it, I will help you." Zhang Qishao answered without hesitation. "If I create my own technique, what do you think?" "Ah?" When Zhang Qishao heard this, she was so shocked that she almost fell from the sky. You created your own incantation? You haven't been possessed by Ji Peng, right?" "Can't I?" Xiaohua asked calmly. "If you can cultivate to the nascent soul stage or enter the spirit severing stage, naturally you can." Zhang Qishao smiled bitterly. Only when you have a nascent soul will you be able to communicate with the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and perceive a trace of the heavenly Tao. Or, with enough experience, you will be able to find the most suitable techniques for yourself from the existing techniques. Only then will you be able to find your own shortcomings and create new ones. As for now, although you have the strength of the nascent soul stage, your realm and comprehension are far from enough. You can't create your own technique. It's better to give up on this idea. Xiaohua did not deny it. He looked at the nearby grotto heavens and said, "Third, I feel that even though I have the wishful staff and can fight with Jiping in close combat, and have sufficient spiritual power, there is still a gap between me and Jiping. This gap lies within the blood-drop grotto heaven." "Yes, continue." Zhang Qinshao smiled and encouraged him. "This blood-drop grotto heaven is like a world of its own. Jiping has the ability to control the world in this world. No matter what I do, I am under his control. Therefore, no matter what my cultivation is, I will be at a disadvantage first." Zhang Qingxiao's eyes flashed with surprise. She clapped her hands and said, "Junior brother, I have to say, you are really a genius. This kind of rule, if I didn't have the inheritance." Speaking of this, Zhang Qinxiao showed a trace of embarrassment. Obviously this, inheritance, was a secret of Di Luo and Zhang Qinxiao did not mention it before. However, Xiaohua acted as if he did not hear it and asked curiously, "What is the rule?" "Alas," Zhang Qinxiao sighed and said, "Actually it is too early for you to know about the rule. It's better that you don't know." "Strange. If you can know, why can't I know?" Xiaohua smiled. "You think I want to know?" Zhang Qinxiao pointed at her own head and said, "None of the things in here belong to me. They were forced to me by Di Luo and that Ji Peng." "Alas, forget it." Zhang Qinxiao sighed and said, "Speaking of the rule, it is a bit troublesome. How do I even begin? In short, the rule is similar to the confinement spell. You also know that once the confinement spell is cast, the enemy will be confined. Within the range of the confinement spell, there is a so-called rule. This rule is made by using magic and yellow talismans. It is the simplest rule. But in this blood-dripping grotto heaven, there is the rule revealed by Ji Peng's devil art. The flashing waves and the blood-red light are all a kind of rule. You can understand it this way. If you say more, I won't say more. Damn it, Ji Peng is just a devil general. How can he know the rule?" Xiaohua felt that it was a bit unbelievable. -11. Chapter 2739. Zhang Qinxiao bitterly smiled and shook her head. "He doesn't know either. If it's like what you said, it should be because of the blood-drop grotto heaven technique. This blood-drop grotto heaven is so powerful." Xiaohua was dumbfounded. "Nonsense, this is Scarlet Maple Devil Lord's technique, how can it be bad?" Zhang Qinxiao sneered. "Ji Peng only cultivated a little bit. If he had a little bit of success, you and I would definitely die today." Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked at Zhang Qinxiao without saying anything. Zhang Qinxiao was scared by his stare and said coldly, "Why are you looking at me? Could it be, you want the cultivation method of this blood-drop grotto heaven?" "That's right. Previously, you gave me the cultivation technique. But I can't cultivate it." Xiaohua nodded and said, "And that Ji Peng is also in the Dawn Rain continent, how can he cultivate it? Now that you've swallowed a part of Ji Peng's body, you must know this secret." "You can't tell me?" Zhang Qinxiao didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked at the black flame and black gas imprisoned by the spirit fire, thought for a moment, and said hesitantly, "This secret technique, it's not that I can't tell you. Because you can cultivate my Devil Realm's concealment technique, it's very likely that you can cultivate this blood-drop grotto heaven. But, as long as you cultivate this devil technique, the consequences. I don't know. It's really possible that you'll become a devil like me. You're not even willing to be the vice sect master of Heavenly Devil Sect. Are you willing to become a devil?" Xiaohua hesitated, muttered for a moment, and said, Let me see the secret technique first. Wait for me to think clearly, then I'll decide whether to cultivate it or not. You have to think clearly. Although my life is important, and you have to face Jiping together with me, there are thousands of paths. You don't have to cultivate this blood-drop grotto heaven to kill Jiping. Zhang Qishao naturally knew what Xiaohua was thinking and said sincerely, I know what's important. Give me the secret technique. Xiaohua stretched out his hand and said, AI, okay. Zhang Qishao clapped her hands and took out a few demonic slips from her storage pouch. She handed them to Xiaohua and said, These contain all of Jiping's demonic arts and memories. I knew you would want them when I fused with them earlier. Hee, many thanks, second senior brother. Xiaohua unceremoniously reached out and took it. He didn't even look at it before putting it into his space. Looking at Xiaohua's appearance, the corner of Zhang Qingxiao's mouth slightly revealed a smile. She hesitated slightly before asking, You, that Vajra Dharma body? Or the Phoenix Dharma body? Why didn't you use it? Which of these Dharmakayas is most effective against the devil body of the devil world? Phoenix Dharma body? Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. Second senior brother, you know a lot. More than you think. Zhang Qingxiao sneered. If you temper your Vajra celestial body more, you may not be at a disadvantage even in this blood-drop paradise. Sigh, it's a long story. Xiaohua sighed. I lost that avatar. Lost it. Zhang Qishao was extremely shocked. Even with her experience, she had never heard of such an unimaginable thing. But after listening to Xiaohua's general explanation, she couldn't help but be flabbergasted. She repeatedly said, This is too much of a coincidence. I can't help it. Xiaohua shrugged. At that time, the situation was extremely urgent. If that crack had continued for half a moment, you wouldn't have been able to see me again. Actually, I don't understand. Zhang Qishao blinked her eyes and said, How did your Vajra celestial body turn into the Phoenix Dharma body? Oh, of course, if you don't want to say, I also don't want to know. However, if it's really related to the bloodline of the true bloodline, this avatar shouldn't be lost. Ah? Really? Xiaohua knew that he wasn't as knowledgeable as Zhang Qishao, so he couldn't help but be happy. Then where should I go to look for it? Naturally, you have to look for it wherever you lost it. Zhang Qishao said with a smile. The void? Xiaohua suddenly thought of the spatial crack between the sword mound and Mingxi, and said anxiously, I don't remember the location of the Gale snowfield very clearly. What if I enter the void from another place? Hee, you really don't know anything. Zhang Qishao said with a smile. Although the void is outside the Dawn Rain continent, but there's no direction in the void. Even if you left a divine sense mark on the Gale snowfield, it would be like carving a boat to find a sword. It's absolutely impossible to find your avatar there. Actually, to put it more clearly, the void is a Kuai-He Sea, and my Dawn Rain continent is a small island on the Kuai-He Sea. Your avatar is a grain of sand thrown into the sea. Zhang Qishao shook her head and said, If you want to find your avatar, it's tantamount to finding a needle in a haystack. Didn't you say you want to look for it in the void? Xiaohua was unhappy. Yes, you can only look for it there, but I didn't say anything wrong. As for whether you can find it or not, that's another matter. Zhang Qishao argued. That's equivalent to not saying anything. The glimmer of hope that had just risen in Xiaohua's heart was immediately extinguished. It depends on your divine sense and your fate. Zhang Qishao shook her head and said, When you can reach the dividing spirit stage, maybe you can set foot in the void? Maybe you can meet your avatar there? Moreover, your avatar was born from your bloodline, so it should be able to sense you. Maybe it can take the initiative to find you. Oh, right, you. Speaking of this, Zhang Qishao suddenly thought of something and said with narrowed eyes, You can use the dividing spirit stage to control several magic treasures and Buddha's relics. Do you have a demonic sense splitting technique similar to the demonic sense splitting technique in the devil realm? Did you send a wisp of your primordial spirit into that, Phoenix Avatar? When Yin Meng saw that he had the primordial spirit-splitting technique, Zhang Qishao had been trapped by Ji Peng's magic bamboo slip and didn't know the situation outside. However, he had absorbed Ji Peng's memory, so he naturally knew what Yin Meng knew. Therefore, Xiaohua didn't hide it and answered honestly. Humph, you have some luck. Zhang Qishao sneered. If the Phoenix Avatar is in your body, it will always be your avatar. Now that the Phoenix Avatar is alone in the void, if you have the opportunity, with your primordial spirit as the master, this avatar may really become your external avatar. External avatar? What is that? Xiaohua was overjoyed when he heard the name and asked hurriedly. What else can it be? It's another Xiaohua. Zhang Qishao said angrily, but her eyes were obviously envious. He's second senior brother, can you tell me the details? Xiaohua grinned. I won't tell you. Zhang Qishao waved her hand. When you find it, you will know. Damn it, why don't I have such good luck? TSK. Xiaohua rubbed his hands and said shyly. I'm sorry, little brother's luck is just a little bit better. Xiaohua even stretched out his little finger and used the nail of his thumb to make a gesture. Looking at Xiaohua's appearance, Zhang Qishao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. However, he was completely unguarded against this mysterious little junior brother now. He only wanted to maintain the few relatives he had on the Dawn Rain continent. Don't be so complacent, Zhang Qishao said with a smile. You don't have the Phoenix Avatar. Against the Demon General's Demon Avatar, you are already at a disadvantage. Xiaohua shrugged and said helplessly. Then I can't do anything. Do you remember that Heavenly Law embodiment technique? Zhang Qishao thought for a moment and asked. I remember. Xiaohua nodded. That technique? And that technique is actually the cultivation technique of the Demon Avatar. Zhang Qishao said hesitantly. However, it is not complete, and, if there is a technique like Blood Drop Paradise, it should be enough. Xiaohua nodded. It should be. Zhang Qishao declined to comment. If Heavenly Law embodiment technique is cultivated alone, it will naturally be effective. After all, this technique has already been improved. It's just that you already have the Phoenix Avatar. No matter what. I'm afraid you can't cultivate another avatar, right? Everything is possible. Xiaohua was well aware of the origin of his great strength Vajra avatar. It had nothing to do with bloodline at all. If he cultivated Heavenly Law embodiment technique, there might really be some surprises. Sai, do as you wish. Zhang Qishao said somewhat helplessly. She was already somewhat tired of Xiaohua giving her surprises again and again. After thinking for a moment, Zhang Qishao clapped her hands and took out many jade slips and handed them to Xiaohua, saying, These are all the techniques that I can find. You, do as you see fit. Remember, I am not supporting you to create some technique. I have so many jade slips that I have no place to put them. I will leave one for you. Haha, little brother, thanks. Xiaohua beamed with joy and reached out to receive them, sending them all into the space. Give me the universal shifting medallion. Zhang Qishao stretched out her hand. Xiaohua asked curiously. What are you doing? Destroying it. Zhang Qishao said coldly. This universe shifting token contains the jade slips and materials to set up the teleportation array. However, because it was damaged during the teleportation, that bastard Yin Meng couldn't take it out. That's why the Changbai sect had to repair it. This item is the root of a disaster. It must be destroyed. You have a way? Xiaohua was stunned. I tried just now. Zhang Qishao knew that Xiaohua was unwilling and said coldly. Don't be a miser. You picked up sesame seeds and threw away the watermelon. Without this item, the chances of Ji-Peng coming here will be much smaller. With this item, that bastard can't come. Xiaohua waved his hand and said, Don't worry about this item with me. Others definitely can't take it away. Of course, unless you have the confidence to destroy it. Unfortunately, Zhang Qishao closed her eyes for a long time, and a helpless expression appeared on her face. She shook her head and said, "Forget it, you take it first. Since I can't destroy it, it's safer to leave it with you." Then Zhang Qishao looked around and pointed at the black gas in the spiritual fire, saying, "This black flame and other things. I think you left it for me." -11. Chapter 2740. That's right. Xiaohua nodded. This item must be beneficial to you. I didn't completely destroy it. I'll give it to you. Zhang Qishao clapped her hands and took out a ring the size of a fist. Blood light flashed around her body, and the ring emitted a strange fluctuation. The black flame within the spiritual fire started to tremble rapidly. "Release the black flame," Zhang Qishao said. Xiaohua obeyed and kept the spiritual fire. The black gas and black flame were sucked into the ring. As the black flame disappeared, the mace was revealed and fell into Zhang Qingxiao's hands. Then, Zhang Qishao opened her mouth again, and a ray of blood light landed on the blood walls around her. The entire blood walls began to squirm, and then they were absorbed by the ring. At this moment, the sky was filled with stars and the entire Tianzhu Peak was covered in snow. It was a beautiful white land. The magic bamboo slip has the usage of the blood ring. Zhang Qishao handed the ring to Xiaohua and extended her hand to pass the mace to Xiaohua. Xiaohua kept them all in his spatial ring. Remember, don't cultivate rashly. Zhang Qishao looked at Xiaohua's indifferent expression and couldn't help but remind him again. I understand, second senior brother. Xiaohua nodded. He looked at the clear sky and said, I've already seen your heavenly demon sex message talisman. Then, the person I'm looking for has already gone to Sky Patrol City. We don't have to go to Ming Kingdom now. We can just go to Sky Patrol City directly. Zhang Qishao nodded. She looked at Xiaohua's arms and asked worriedly, Lu'er is fine in your spiritual storage bag. You put him with that spiritual beast. Will he be fine? No harm. Xiaohua smiled. That spiritual beast is very obedient. Nothing will happen to him. Also, I've already seen that there are no changes to Lu'er. All right. Zhang Qingxiao's face showed disappointment and said, Half of what happened to Lu'er is my fault. I originally said that I would help you find a way to save Lu'er. But now that the Heavenly Demon Sect's first deputy sect leader, Yin Meng, is dead, he still has many direct disciples. Who knows, Jiping might have set them up. I have no choice but to go back and purge them. Furthermore, Laozi had already devoured Jiping's doppelganger. He still needed to properly digest it and completely refine it. He could not allow it to turn around and control Laozi. Therefore, I'm afraid I can't go to Sky Patrol City with you. And I know. Xiaohua nodded. Even if you go, it's useless. I might as well go myself. All right, I'll leave Lu'er's matter to you. Zhang Qishao clapped her hands and took out a token. She handed it to Xiaohua and said, This is my Heavenly Demon Sect's first Vice Sect Master's keepsake. I'll give it to you. From today onwards, my Heavenly Demon Sect no longer has a first Vice Sect leader. Whatever you want to do, you can use this token to do whatever you want. It's the authority of the first Vice Sect Master. All right. Xiaohua, who had tasted the sweetness, took the token with a smile and said, If I don't take it, I'm afraid you won't feel at ease. Who knows? Zhang Qishao shrugged. Anyway, you've already accepted it. There's no point in talking about this anymore. We've boarded a pirate ship. Xiaohua sighed. It can't be considered boarding a ship. Zhang Qishao shook her head. You're still you. Heavenly Demon Sect is still Heavenly Demon Sect. Only when you need Heavenly Demon Sect will this keepsake be useful. Otherwise, this keepsake will always be useless. You are not my Heavenly Demon Sect's first Vice Sect Master. And Xiaohua nodded slightly and didn't say much. Then, he looked to the north and said, The north of Huan country is now occupied by sword cultivators. I want to take a look before going to Sky Patrol City. Second senior brother, you and I will take our leave now. Are you going to Huan Country's heavenly demon sect? And, of course I'm going. Zhang Qishao cupped her hands and said, Let's part here. All right. Xiaohua said and flew away. You're really leaving? Zhang Qingxiao's face revealed a strange expression. She pointed at Tianzhu Peak and said, That child has already climbed so high in this world of ice and snow. He really doesn't care about his life. It seems like there's something going on. Aren't you going to care? This young man is too shrewd. Xiaohua said calmly. When I saved the first child, I already asked him. It was this young man's idea to come to Tianzhu Peak. He has a blood feud and wanted to attract the attention of others. So, he brought these children to Tianzhu Peak. The bet, and so on, were all planned by him. Naturally, he wanted to kill two birds with one stone. He wanted to use the children's lives to attract the pity of us cultivators so that he could have a chance to encounter an opportunity for cultivation. I don't like such a scheming person. How can I reach out and care about his matters? Ha ha ha, so you're not a good person. Zhang Qishao laughed loudly. Her face was full of interest. Looking at the foot of the mountain, she said, This child has such a scheme, such shrewdness, and even such perseverance. He's a good talent that my heavenly demon sect needs. I can't do without taking him into the sect. Whether you take him in or not is your business. Just don't use my name, Xiaohua said coldly. When you need my heavenly demon sect to broadcast good seeds to you, you don't say that I'm using your name? Zhang Qishao laughed. It seemed that she really had the intention to use Taoist Master Zhao's name. Do as you wish. Thinking of Zhonghaoren's plan, Xiaohua's heart stirred. Waving his hand, he said, I'm leaving. After I finish Luo's matter, I'll bring him to see you. Okay. Zhang Qishao nodded, but his brows furrowed. With a flash, he flew down Tianzhu Peak. It seemed that the young man was in danger. Xiaohua's face was as calm as water. He flew into the sky and headed north of Huan Country. The north of Huan Country was naturally extremely cold, very similar to the north of Shi Country. In addition, the rich land of fish and rice near Tianzhu Peak was also nowhere to be seen. All that was seen and heard was bitter cold. Along the way, Xiaohua naturally scattered spirit seeds on the ground. As for who could pick them up, or whether these good seeds could sprout, Xiaohua didn't care. After all, spirit seeds were the same as a human's cultivation. They all needed luck. Some spirit seeds fell into the mud and immediately decayed. Some spirit seeds fell into rocks and immediately dried up. Some spirit seeds fell into trees and immediately became bird food. Only those seeds that fell into fertile fields could germinate into rice. Alas, although I have some vague directions. But if I start, it's extremely difficult. Xiaohua flew in the air while his thoughts ran wild. He roughly looked through the jade slips given by Zhang Qishao, and even those magic slips. There were all kinds of strange cultivation methods in them. Xiaohua could easily learn some of them, but he couldn't understand some of them even after looking at them for half a day. If he were to absorb the essence of these cultivation methods, comprehend the experience, and create his own cultivation method, it wouldn't be something that could be done in a day or two. Thinking back to the day when I created my own foundation establishment cultivation method, it was so easy. Why is it so difficult to face these? Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Actually, he knew in his heart that it was a matter of life and death that day. The choice of life or death forced him to create his own cultivation method. If it was now, it would be really difficult for him to create another cultivation method. That theory of rules is really fresh, Xiaohua thought again. But thinking about it, isn't there the fluctuation of rules in space? It's normal to pay attention to this in terms of cultivation methods. I'm thinking of creating my own cultivation method now, but I'm still looking for something far away. That sword plays the world, and that heaven-shocking stick. Don't they all contain a kind of rule? Maybe if I first understand these two secret techniques, I'll be able to protect myself against an opponent as strong as Ji Ping. Xiao Hua had a plan in his heart. He clapped his hands, took out another jade slip, and sighed. Damn it, the Heavenly Demon sect is really powerful. They even got the list of nascent soul and gold core cultivators from the 3 countries who went to the Sky Patrol City. I don't know when my Fortune Gate will be able to do that. Jing Ran went to the Sky Patrol City, the 3 elders of the Ardent Fire Mountain went to the Sky Patrol City, and even Zhu Qinghe and Qian Dihing went to the Sky Patrol City. Damn it, the Sky Patrol City is very lively now. Xiao Hua shrunk his neck and laughed. I won't go to such a lively place. Whether the old devils of the snow region know the truth or not, I won't take the risk. That's right, Qian Dihing went to the Sky Patrol City. Is he going to ask me for a rejuvenation pill? Xiao Hua suddenly remembered. I haven't refined it in the past few years. Caw, just as Xiao Hua's imagination was running wild, a powerful bird cry suddenly came from above Xiao Hua's head. That sound was like the cry of a bird, but also like thunder. It rushed into Xiao Hua's ears and shook his thoughts into chaos. Even his entire body rapidly fell several meters. Who is it? Xiao Hua activated the secret technique of God guidance, and swept his divine sense over this extreme discomfort. He was stunned. He saw that in the sky, there was a giant pink bird that was several hundred feet in size. It spread its wings and covered the sky nearby. On the back of the giant pink bird stood a giant and a dwarf. These 2 people were quite strange. Xiao Hua couldn't help but look at them a few more times. He saw that the giant was taller than the one Xiao Hua had seen before. It was about 3 zhang tall. Its arms were thick and large, and its body was well built. What was even more special was that it had a big red nose on its forehead. It was very eye-catching. As for the dwarf, it was the first time Xiao Hua saw it. It was shorter than an ordinary person by more than half, barely reaching the giant's knee. Although the dwarf was very small, it seemed that the dwarf was much more shrewd than the giant, because the dwarf's 2 small eyes flashed with an extremely cunning light. Looking at the giant pink bird that was bigger than his phoenix celestial body, Xiao Hua's heart trembled. When the giant pink bird's eyes swept over him like sword light, Xiao Hua almost felt that his whole body was about to be pierced by this gaze. This giant pink bird. Is it a demonic beast? Is it the spirit beast of this giant or dwarf? Xiao Hua clapped his hands and took out the wishful staff. His body slowly descended. -11. Chapter 2741. It was as if the rock only wanted Xiao Hua to land and did not force him. Instead, it flapped its wings, causing a gust of wind to blow as it followed Xiao Hua down from the sky. Xiao Hua found an ice mountain and landed on top of it. His eyes narrowed as he looked at the rock that was slowly descending from 100 zhang away. The rock was indeed huge. When it was still 100 zhang away from the ice mountain, the snow and ice on top of the mountain was blown away by the gust of wind from its wings. When the rock landed on top of the mountain, cracking sounds could be heard as many cracks appeared on the ice. With a pun sound, the giant jumped down from the rock's back, creating a deep hole in the snow under his feet. The giant even jumped a few more steps and rushed to Xiao Hua's side. With a flip of his hand, he actually pulled out a huge mace from his back. Looking at the dwarf, his figure was very vigorous as he somersaulted in the air and landed on top of the snow. Then, he jogged a few times and clapped his hands. From his storage bag, he took out 2 small yellow sticks. The front of the sticks was slightly bulging, as if they were used to grind medicine. Jie, the great rock let out a long cry, the sound reverberating in all directions. The ice that had already cracked earlier cracked even more. As the great rock let out a long cry, its wings, which were hundreds of feet long, shrank rapidly. Its entire body shrank as well, and even its head gradually transformed. A human face with long and narrow cheeks, thin and long eyes, and a slightly protruding mouth appeared. In the blink of an eye, the huge rock's body and wings disappeared. A slightly tall old man with a pale golden face appeared in front of Xiao Hua. Bird cultivator? Xiao Hua suddenly realized. The moment the old man's figure appeared, an aura that was like a sharp sword came out of his body. Of course, this aura was just a flash, but Xiao Hua still saw it clearly. Peak of the third-grade illusory sword. Just half a step away from the sword transformation realm. I am Kun Mogu Chi-Peng. The old man revealed his figure and stood there like a mountain. His sharp eyes swept over Xiao Hua several times as he coldly said, You! Which Dao sect's disciple are you from? You actually dare to openly peep at my sword domain's territory? I am Imperial Thunder Sect's Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua wasn't cowardly at all. He replied indifferently, This is my Lian Kingdom's territory. When did it become your sword cultivator's territory? Hee, kid! This place has long since been conquered by the warriors of my sword region. It's already the location of my sword region, the dwarf said with a sinister smile. Aren't you a disciple of the Dao sect participating in the battle? Who are you? Xiao Hua looked at the dwarf and said, This Xiao doesn't talk to nameless people. You! The dwarf was slightly angry, but when he looked at Xiao Hua, he was actually somewhat afraid and didn't dare to step forward. Instead, he clenched his teeth and said, I am Gao Dazhuang, the cave master of Cloud Mist Cave. He is one of the most famous people in this war. Haven't you heard of him? Gao Dazhuang? Xiao Hua almost wanted to grin, but he forcefully held back his laughter. He blinked his eyes and said, This Xiao has only heard of the names of Qin Jian, Lu Ruochang, and the others. I have never heard of Gao Dazhuang. I've never even heard of Qi Peng's name. It doesn't matter if you haven't heard of my name. Qi Peng wasn't angry at all. He wasn't like Gao Dazhuang who was about to stomp his feet. He said coldly, You only need to have heard of Ling Yunwu, Yuan, Yuan Qing, Yu Ming, and Qin Jian. Oh? Hearing these names, Xiao Hua understood in his heart. Although he didn't know the names of Yuan Qing and Yuan, Ling Yunwu, Yu Ming, and Qin Jian were all his former opponents. How could he not know that Qi Peng had already seen through him? I am Lian Xiaoqiao of the Mountain Crossing Ridge. Xiao Hua, you have consecutively defeated my Mountain Crossing Ridge's warriors. Today, I must fight you. The giant couldn't compare to the shrewdness of the dwarf, and couldn't help but shout. Lian Xiaoqiao. Hearing the giant's name, Xiao Hua couldn't help but laugh. This name was too interesting. Compared to these two names, his own name, Xiao Hua, was really insignificant. Terrifying Phoenix. Do you want me to personally call you that? Qi Peng looked at Xiao Hua, who was about to laugh, and coldly called out. He patted his hand and took out a sword scroll. He looked at it with his divine sense, and then looked at Xiao Hua's face. He coldly snorted. Although I have never seen you before, your reputation is really resounding in my sword domain. This sword domain's #1 bounty. It's been a bounty for a long time. Oh? There's actually a bounty for me. And it's #1? Xiao Hua was startled. He really didn't think that there would be a bounty for him, and it was actually #1. Humph, you naturally won't be #1. However, with Li Zongbao and Xiao Mao, you guys are naturally #1. Gao Dazhuang also coldly snorted and said, Can you let me see this bounty? Xiao Hua was very curious, and reached out his hand. TSK as expected of the terrifying Phoenix. Qi Peng laughed. Truly a skilled and bold person. Facing the three of us, you're actually so calm. I really have no choice but to admit defeat. As he spoke, Qi Peng waved his hand and the sword scroll flew in front of Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua's divine sense scanned the sword scroll and knew that there were no hidden cards inside. He then took it and looked inside with his divine sense for a while. He touched his nose with his hand and laughed. Inside this. The three of us don't seem to be very similar. At least, I'm not really handsome. Haha, Xiao Hua, you're really interesting. Qi Peng clapped his hands. I really can't think of anything. You're just a middle-stage foundation establishment cultivator. What kind of hidden cards can you have? Even if you can suppress your cultivation, you're at most at the early stage of golden core, right? You're actually not afraid at all? I'm speaking the truth. The images in this bounty really don't look like me, Li Zongbao and the others. Xiaohua's face was filled with helplessness. Moreover, this bounty. Isn't it too little? It's a far cry from my Dao sect's #1 bounty. It's not generous enough, not generous enough. Nonsense, those who saw you were all disciples who were pregnant and drew their swords. They couldn't explain it clearly, so the images they drew were all different. As for the illusory swordsmen who saw you, none of them are alive, so how can there be a real image? Lian Xiaochao coldly snorted. However, from today onwards, at least one of the images in this bounty can be real. You're wrong. From today onwards, this bounty will still be blurry. Gao Dazhuang continued. Why? Lian Xiaochao was somewhat puzzled. We can naturally correct Xiaohua's image. Gao Dazhuang sneered. Xiaohua is dead, so naturally there's no need to correct it. But Xiaohua isn't dead. Lian Xiaochao was even more puzzled. Moreover, I don't have the confidence to kill him. Humph, the three of us working together, can we kill him? Gao Dazhuang really wanted to pinch Lian Xiaocao's ear and tell him. What? The three of us working together? Lian Xiaocao couldn't accept it as soon as he heard it. He poked the mace in his hand into the ice under his feet. With a dong sound, he stood there straight. He waved his hand and said, He's just a Foundation establishment disciple. I know he's strong and has forced back a few of my subordinates. That's why I want to fight with him. If the three of you work together, I definitely won't do it. You. Gao Dazhuang was a little dumbfounded. He didn't expect the giant to be so straightforward, and he also didn't expect Lian Xiaochao to say such words in front of him. He somewhat resentfully glared at Lian Xiaochao, and then looked at Qi Ping. Not to mention Gao Dazhuang, even Xiaohua himself was stunned. He looked up and down at Lian Xiaochao, who didn't seem to be pretending. Then, he folded his arms, clamped the wishful steel mace in his armpit, and looked at Qi Ping with a smile, as if he was waiting for Qi Ping's answer. That's right. Qi Ping also coldly said. Although the terrifying phoenix has killed many warriors of our sword region, he is still a Foundation establishment disciple. Even when he fought with our sword region's illusory swordsmen, he was alone. I have never heard of him joining forces with that Dao sect disciple. According to the rules of our illusory sword domain, we can't work together to kill him. Even you and I are third-grade illusory swordsmen. We can't fight with a Foundation establishment disciple. But Gao Dazhuang's face was anxious. He's a terrifying phoenix. He's not an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator. Yes, it's because he's not an ordinary Foundation establishment cultivator. He might even be a golden core cultivator. Moreover, he has killed many warriors of our illusory sword domain, so we have to fight with him. Qi Peng's face was cold as he lightly said, That's right, this is a time of war. What one-on-one fight? What alliance? It doesn't matter. Gao Dazhuang anxiously said. If we kill this terrifying phoenix, we'll take credit in front of the swordsmen. We'll really raise the morale of our swordsmen. We want to fight with him. But only one of the three of us can fight with him. Not, the three of us can fight together. Qi Ping said word by word. Although this is a time of war. But the nascent soul cultivators have just gathered in the meeting hall of Sky Patrol City. The swordsmen of Ripple Country have not arrived yet. This Dao sword battle is resting. We are not fighting on the battlefield. I'm not so thick-skinned to the point of tearing apart the bottom line of illusory sword domain. But this bastard managed to kill Qin Jian. None of us have the confidence to kill him. Gao Dazhuang was a little anxious and stammered. Only if the three of us work together can we have full confidence. That's right. If the three of us work together, we have confidence. Qi Peng lightly said. I also want to kill the terrifying phoenix. However, although I'm a beast cultivator, I'm also a member of the illusory sword domain. I'm also the Valley Master of the Valley of Macaws. I can't abandon the principles of being a swordsman because of my selfishness. This principle is the foundation of our illusory sword domain. Without this principle, I won't be able to convince everyone in the Valley of Macaws. Our illusory sword domain won't be able to establish itself in the Dawn Rain continent. -11. Chapter 2742. Good. Xiao Hua almost wanted to clap his hands. This Taoist war had been going on for close to 10 years. He had seen swordsmen who were both real and fake. Some were as cunning as Qin Jian and Guanping, some were as resourceful as Lv Ruocheng and Ling Yunwu, some were as reasonable as Gu Yu, and some were as honest as Ji Yi. However, the only one who truly adhered to his principles was this Qi Ping in front of him. And Lian Xiao Chao. With such people in this world, with such virtuous opponents, Xiao Hua did not feel lonely at all. You all must be crazy! Gao Dazhuang was in disbelief. He really could not understand what the two were thinking. He jumped up and said, You all have to look carefully. This is a great enemy of our sword region. It is this Foundation establishment disciple who killed Ling Yunwu and more than 10 people from the Lingfeng sword sect at Mount Quanjin. It is this person who drove Yu Ming crazy. It is this person who killed Qin Jian. It is this person who killed so many swordsmen of our sword region. You all are going to let him go just like this? Who said we are going to let him go? Lian Xiaochao roared and picked up his mace. He shouted, I am going to kill him with my mace. That's right. Today, even if I die, I will make him stay here. Xi Peng's face flashed with a yellow light. A strange fluctuation appeared around him as he said coldly, But you all do not have any confidence. Gao Dazhuang was about to cry. He can even kill Qin Jian, who is a third-grade illusory sword expert. You all, if you fight him alone, won't you all die? A warrior can be killed, but his will cannot be humiliated. Qi Peng said faintly. If I don't even have this awareness, how can I step into the sword transformation realm? Crazy. You all are crazier than Yu Ming. Gao Dazhuang stamped his feet. Brother Qi, are you going to do it or should I? Lian Xiaoxiao drew a big circle with his mace and said loudly, This Terra Phoenix has left a huge name in our mountain crossing ridge. All the boy who heard the name of the Terra Phoenix would be afraid. I cannot not fight with him. Let me do it. Qi Peng laughed. Your cultivation level is slightly lower than mine. Against this cruel and terrifying phoenix, you have less confidence than me. Okay. Lian Xiaoxiao propped her mace on the ground and said, Old brother Qi, go. Ha ha ha. Seeing this, Xiao Hua raised his head and laughed loudly. He pointed at Qi Peng and said, Old man Qi, you keep talking about principles, but didn't you think about it? This Xiao is just a Foundation establishment cultivator. You, a third-grade illusory swordsman, don't you feel that you are lowering your status by fighting against this Xiao? Don't you feel embarrassed? Hee, of course I have my principles. Qi Peng sneered. But I'm not pedantic. I've already said that even though you seem to be at Foundation establishment, you definitely possess the strength of a Jin Dan cultivator. Otherwise, Qin Jian wouldn't have fallen. Moreover, this is a time of war, and I'm not transforming into a sword. Even if I attack an aura refining disciple, it's absolutely not against the rules. Alright, if that's the case. It seems that this Xiao has no choice but to fight. Xiao Hua said coldly as he twirled the staff in his hand. That's right. Unless this old man dies. Don't even think about leaving this place. Qi Peng spread out his hands, and 2 yellow lights flashed. 2 rows of orange-yellow feathers rushed out from his arms like flying swords. Wait, Xiao Hua hurriedly said. What else do you have to say? Qi Peng slightly stagnated. The orange sword light condensed and didn't shoot out. Can this Xiao choose his own opponent? Xiao Hua said in a low voice. Choose? Qi Peng was stunned, and Gao Dezhuang's expression changed. He tightened his grip on his mace, as if he understood that Xiaohua was looking for him. I, a Foundation establishment cultivator, can't choose my opponent when facing 3 illusory swordsmen? Xiaohua said very innocently. His gaze went past Qiping and fell on Gao Dezhuang. No! Of course not! Gao Dezhuang jumped up and said, This is a battlefield, not a competition. The purpose of us besieging you is to kill you. That's right! Qiping sneered. In front of the 3 of us, you're just a fish on the chopping block. What qualifications do you have to be on the chopping block? Hand over your life. As Qiping's voice fell, the orange-yellow brilliance on the wings left his body and turned into specks of small swords, rushing toward Xiaohua like a flash flood. Woo woo! Countless strange sounds rang out as the light feathers shot out. Similarly, a hurricane was stirred up nearby. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth within a radius of several hundred feet converged towards this location. The light feathers transformed from small swords into flying swords. Ha ha ha! Who said this young master is a fish on the chopping block? Even if this young master is a small fish, you guys are still 3 inches long shrimps. Xiaohua laughed loudly. He clapped his hands, and the Kunlun mirror flew up into the sky. Xiaohua pointed his hand, and a green light flashed on the mirror, and a green light rushed out. After the green light appeared, every strand of light began to expand. The heaven and earth spirit chi that was absorbed by the light feather rapidly converged towards these strands of light. Strands of green wood that were thinner than a strand of hair began to transform from these strands of light. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the green would absorb a huge amount of heaven and earth's spiritual energy, and turned into hundreds and thousands of small green wood. They also rushed toward Qiping's flying swords like a flood. Hiss! Qiping didn't underestimate Xiaohua. At this time, his heart tightened, and he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Unlike Gao Dezhuang and Lian Xiaochao, Qiping was currently facing the torrent of green wood. Although the thousands of green wood were attacking his sword light in a disorderly manner, Qiping was keenly aware that these green wood were not without order. There was even a kind of magic formation faintly revealed within these green wood. All the green wood faintly overflowed with intertwining magic power fluctuations, and these fluctuations occasionally flashed with a kind of indescribable confinement power. This power not only enveloped his sword light, it also enveloped the space of around 100 feet around him. The strangeness of this magic treasure was far from what Qiping had seen the Dao sect cultivators use before. Although the power of this Kunlun mirror might not be able to threaten Qiping, but it was enough to make him look at Xiaohua in a new light. Isn't this the power of sword transformation? Qiping was shocked. Although he hadn't stepped into sword transformation, he could already see a trace of the mysteries of sword transformation. Naturally, he could see the difference. Then, Qiping understood. The Dao sect's spells are indeed endless. Although this Xiaohua's cultivation is only at the golden core stage, he can actually comprehend this. No wonder Qin Jian fell in his hands. I'm afraid my feather arrow technique won't be able to block it. Just as Qiping understood, the 2 torrents collided. Rumble! Loud noises rang out unceasingly. The light sword pierced into the green wood, and pieces of the green wood's brilliance were annihilated. At the same time, the green wood crushed the light sword under the wooden wheel. Boundless brilliance soared into the sky, illuminating the surroundings. The green brilliance intertwined with the orange brilliance, flickering intensely. Similarly intense fluctuations and surging hurricanes were also born from the foot of the mountain. Even someone as strong as Qiping didn't expect that the attack just now would be so powerful. His arms trembled slightly. While protecting his body, he slowly retreated more than 10 feet. However, just as Qiping was about to activate the feather arrow technique again, Xiaohua's action stunned him again. Attack! Xiaohua's figure flew into the air with the force of this attack. He patted his hand and actually took out a mace that was twice as big as the one in front of Lian Xiaochao. He abandoned Qiping and unexpectedly swung it towards Lian Xiaocao's head. "Io, you're courting death." Lian Xiaochao was obviously caught unprepared. When he saw that the wind from Xiaohua's mace had already rushed to his forehead, he finally came to his senses. He roared angrily and dragged the mace into the air in an extremely embarrassing manner. However, this mace was not only a little crooked, but also a lot of mud splashed onto his face. Bang! A sound that wasn't any weaker than the sound of the Kunlun mirror colliding with the arrow rang out. The two huge spiked maces collided with each other. Even Xiao Cao's arms swayed a bit. Even the solid ice under his huge body had long shattered. What surprised Qi Ping the most was that Xiaohua's Kunlun mirror that blocked his feather arrow technique actually didn't put it into the storage bag. Instead, it quietly floated above Xiaohua's head. Although the mirror flashed a faint tricolored brilliance from time to time, there was no fluctuation of magic power. It was obviously condensed and not released, and was extremely vigilant against him. This Xiaohua, what is he doing? Qi Ping was somewhat confused. Could it be that he wants to fight 1 against 2, 1 against 3? Even if he's in the late stage of Jindan, he can't be so arrogant. However, Qi Ping didn't dare to be careless. The orange brilliance around his body flashed again. The wings that had already spread out several feet slowly expanded. Although he didn't go forward to attack Xiaohua with Lian Xiaochao, and just as he said before, only one of them was facing Xiaohua, he still revealed himself, and was always on guard against Xiaohua's counterattack. Valley Master Qi! When Gao Dazhuang saw Xiaohua first attack Qi Ping, then provoke Lian Xiaochao, his heart finally relaxed. The fear that suddenly appeared in his heart slowly disappeared. At this time, when he saw Qi Ping on guard, he hurriedly shouted, "This Xiaohua is bluffing. Don't look at how arrogant he is. He's just looking for the weakest among us 3 to force us to make the first move. This guy will definitely escape after fighting with Lian Xiaochao for a while. Valley Master Qi, please be prepared." At this time, Qi Ping's figure was already 50% illusory. His upper body was still in human form. When he heard Gao Dazhuang's words, a trace of understanding flashed in his eyes, but then his eyes flashed with displeasure. When Gao Dazhuang saw this, although Qi Ping didn't say anything, he immediately shut his mouth. He knew that his words had exposed some of Qi Ping's plans. It had the meaning of trying to be clever and making a fool of himself. -11. Chapter 2743. Then Gao Dazhuang stole a glance at Xiaohua, only to find that Xiaohua was not paying attention to them at all. At this moment, Xiaohua's movements were vigorous. His figure was like a gentle breeze, but the spiked club in his hand was like a thunderbolt. The rumbling sounds were like that of a real thunder god. With a wave of his arm, it was born. Lian Xiaochao was the cave master of Uni Cave and the leader of the giant tribe. His skills were naturally not comparable to ordinary giants. Not only did his arms have infinite strength, but he also had the secret staff technique of Uni Cave. This staff technique was unparalleled in the Huan country. Even against an illusory swordsman, Lian Xiaochao would not be at a disadvantage. However, in this short period of time, Lian Xiaochao had already clashed with Xiaohua more than 10 times. Lian Xiaochao felt that Xiaohua was almost like a hard stone wall. Every time the maces collided with each other, it would make his arms feel numb, and he couldn't use his strength in an instant. This was a situation he had never encountered before. He knew in his heart that Xiaohua's strength was definitely not inferior to his. In fact, Xiaohua was even a little stronger than him. If he let Xiaohua go crazy like this, he would only be at a disadvantage. The strength of his arms would become more and more slack. In the end, he would not be able to lift the mace. Roar! Lian Xiaochao roared. Under the fight with Xiaohua, his body staggered a few steps. He took a deep breath and his whole body was suffused with a bronze luster. When Xiaohua saw this, he sensed a kind of obscure fluctuation coming from Lian Xiaocao's body. He couldn't help but feel surprised. He had always thought that the giants relied on their physical strength and innate physical bodies to fight, but he didn't expect that they also practiced martial arts. Sure enough, as the luster flashed around Lian Xiaocao's body, not only did the strength of Lian Xiaocao's arms gradually increase, but the mace technique also changed. Good, good, good! Xiao Hua's eyebrows twitched, and he was overjoyed. After shouting 3 times, he clapped his hands and the mace in his hand returned to the space. The wishful staff appeared. Woo! The wind whistled, like an ear-piercing scream, and greeted the mace. For a time, the entire nameless foothills were filled with the shadows of the staff. One of them was like a wave, while the other was like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. At first, the sounds of weapons clashing sounded like beans being fried in a hot pan. Crackling sounds rang out incessantly, but after the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the sounds of weapons clashing lessened, and could only be heard occasionally. However, this sound was extremely powerful. Although the sound did not disappear, Gao Dezhuang, who was watching from the side, trembled every time he heard the sound. His eyes flashed with hope. It seemed like it was because Xiao Hua had chosen Lian Xiaochao instead of him, Gao Dezhuang. Even Qi Peng, whose entire body had transformed into a giant rock that was hundreds of feet in size, was somewhat perplexed by the situation with his eyes that were as sharp as swords. Because in his opinion, although Lian Xiaocao's mace did not lose to Xiao Hua's wishful staff in terms of momentum, and even took the upper hand after Lian Xiaocao activated her secret technique, forcing Xiao Hua to fly around in the air to dodge. But now, Xiao Hua was still flying in the air like the wind, and Lian Xiaochao was like a reef standing in the tide. She could only try her best to wave her mace and stand there, not daring to move at will. This time, Xiao Hua was attacking her differently. Could it be Lian Xiaocao's plan to lure the enemy? Qi Peng secretly guessed. How can this Xiao Hua have such divine power? According to the defeated giant, Xiao Hua should not be Lian Xiaocao's opponent. Could it be that Xiao Hua's strength has improved again during this time? This is not possible. Strength is not magical power. Not good. Just when Qi Peng was pondering, he saw Xiao Hua's figure flashing strangely with the wishful staff. It was like an afterimage, but also like a clone. Lian Xiaochao was so scared that she turned her body sideways. The mace flashed slightly, and the huge wolf teeth flashed a cold light and hit Xiao Hua's side. However, after the sound of the mace's wind, it hit nothing. Xiao Hua's wishful staff strangely came out from Lian Xiaocao's side and suddenly hit Lian Xiaocao's back. Roar! When Lian Xiaochao realized that the wishful staff was already close to her body, there was no way to avoid it. She could only roar and meet the wishful staff with her body. With a muffled sound, Lian Xiaocao's figure staggered, and the bronze luster on her back shone brightly. Ha! With Lian Xiaocao's failure, Xiao Hua's figure also appeared in the air. At this time, Xiao Hua's forehead was sweating, and his face was full of a fierce battle. He looked at Lian Xiaocao's back with amazement. At the place where the wishful staff hit, a fist-sized bulge quickly protruded. However, under the bronze luster, it slowly fell. Although it was not as fast as the bulge, it was still visible to the naked eye. Xiao Hua's staff, he knew in his heart that although he did not use his full strength and hurriedly attacked from the flaw of Lian Xiaocao's mace, the power inside was also very strong. Even if it was the sword light of the illusory sword, he was confident that he could defeat it. Well, even Xiao Hua himself was not confident that he would not be injured after being hit. But he did not expect that Lian Xiaochao would be able to take it head-on without being injured. Damn it, this giant clan is really powerful. Xiao Hua was a little flabbergasted. Although the giant clan does not know how to fly, their strength is very strong. Her strength was truly formidable, and even Xiaocao's staff technique was a bit strange. It seems that after every strike, there is a surplus of power. This surplus power is actually similar to my heavenly staff technique. It can be borrowed and used in the second strike. Even the surplus power of the second strike can be used again in the third strike. In this way, it is really a bit of a cycle. Although this young master's staff can borrow power, it can only be used in between a few moves. It is far from Lian Xiaocao's trickle-like flow of water. This must be a secret technique of the giant clan. Xiaohua was not in a hurry to fight with Lian Xiaoqiao. Instead, he narrowed his eyes and thought, should I get this secret technique? Unfortunately, at this time, high in the sky north of the foothills, buzz buzz, several rays of biting cold sword energy shot into the sky. Not only did the floating clouds in the sky shatter into pieces, but even the pale white sunlight changed color because of it. Woo! When Qi Ping spread his wings, the orange sword light suddenly surged, causing Qi Ping to involuntarily turn his head to look. When he looked at Xiaohua again, the originally hidden sword energy in his body involuntarily became majestic. A kind of unconcealable sword energy was born in Xiaohua's body. Damn it! Old Ghost Huashan is here. There are actually several of them. Xiaohua turned pale with fright and hurriedly activated the Chang Bisect's secret technique to conceal the sword energy. His whole body rushed into the air as he thought to himself. This young master was previously impatient because of that dog fart Qi Ping and almost lost his confidence. Now that I met Lian Xiaoqiao, the fight was extremely carefree. This young master is already satisfied and won't play with you guys anymore. This young master is leaving. Thinking of this, Xiaohua did not say anything else. His body turned into the wind and floated towards the south. My eyes, did I see wrongly? Lian Xiaoqiao was somewhat stunned. Even when Xiaohua flew over his head, he was still at a loss. Because Lian Xiaoqiao was facing the north, he had seen the sword intent that had transformed into a sword that soared into the sky. As for the brief moment that had appeared in Xiaohua's body, the sword intent that had almost transformed into a sword had also been inadvertently seen by him. Even though he did not cultivate the flying sword, he had an extremely strong perception towards the sword intent that transformed into a sword in the sword domain. How could Lian Xiaoqiao not be shocked when he saw the sword intent that transformed into a sword from a Dao sect cultivator? He was really shocked to the point of losing his soul. Where do you think you're going? When Qi Ping's gaze came into contact with the sword energy in the distance, he immediately came to his senses and hurriedly scanned back with his divine sense. Sure enough, Xiaohua was fleeing like a stray dog. How could he let this great enemy of the sword domain escape? With a furious roar, he spread his wings and a huge gust of wind surged from his wings. His entire body was faster than lightning as he chased after Xiaohua's back. His claws, which were sharper than flying swords, flashed with sword light as they clawed at Xiaohua's back. Xiaohua did not want to expose his identity as nameless and did not dare to control the heavenly lightning and attract the sword energy to chase after him. He only used the wind escape technique to escape. He had only flown a few hundred feet when he suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill on his back. This great Ping is indeed powerful. This young master was wrong. Xiaohua scanned with his divine sense and immediately knew that Qi Ping was chasing after him. Moreover, Qi Ping's flying speed was far faster than his wind escape technique. No wonder this guy is so confident. He is fighting with this young master alone. With this flying technique that far surpasses others, even the golden core of the Sky Patrol City's conference hall would not be able to escape from his hands. Xiaohua raised his eyebrows. His figure was like a loach as he dodged the moment Qi Ping's claws were about to reach him. Then, as if he was unwilling to admit defeat, Xiaohua blindly activated the wind escape technique, escaping and dodging at the same time. However, the great Ping was indeed incomparably powerful. With just a flap of its wings, it could easily cover a distance of more than 10 li. Moreover, the arrows on its wings and its sharp claws that were comparable to flying swords could easily attack Xiaohua. For a short period of time, Xiaohua was surrounded by danger several times and was almost hit by the sharp claws. Damn it, this young master forgot that this wind escape technique is Feng Buping's talent. That guy is just a bird, similar to this great Peng. This young master's wind escape technique is somewhat comparable to your Feng Buping's. How can I fight against this valley master of the swarm of Owl's Valley? Xiaohua tried his best to avoid Qi Ping's claws as he thought in exasperation. Immediately, Xiaohua clapped his hand and the yin-yang sword gourd appeared in his hand. He pointed his finger and said, "Quick!" Following the incantation, 2 rays of spirit slaying yuan light rushed out from the mouth of the gourd and turned into a green and red brilliance that pounced on Qi Peng's left wing. Ah! Seeing Xiaohua take out the sword gourd, the seemingly familiar yet strange sword light spurted out from the mouth of the gourd. The incomparable killing intent immediately covered Qi Peng. Before Qi Peng could cry out in horror, the 2 sword lights had already flown between Qi Peng's left wing. -11. Chapter 2744. Qi Peng was scared out of his wits and hastily tried to retract his wings. However, how could he retract his wings that were dozens of meters long so easily? Qi Peng had only retracted his wings by a few feet when the green-red sword light wrapped around his left wing. With a swoosh sound, the green-red sword light circled around Qi Peng's left wing. 80% of his left wing was cut off by the execution spirit vital light. As the light flickered, it was suddenly annihilated. Blood sprayed out, and orange feathers scattered all over the sky. Ah! Qi Peng cried out in pain. His entire body tilted and fell down. His other wing flapped with all its might as if it was trying to maintain its balance. He really didn't expect Xiaohua's 2 sword lights to be so sharp that he couldn't resist at all. Jie! In a hurry, a dazzling light shot out from Qi Peng's right arm. It turned into an arrow and flew into the sky, as if it was sending out a distress signal. Humph! Xiaohua's cold sweat sounded in the air. You don't need to worry. I won't take your life. WH. Why? Qi Peng looked at Xiaohua's figure that stopped in the air and asked in disbelief. You and Lian Xiaochao are the only worthy opponents I have met on the battlefield, Xiaohua said indifferently. Just now, you all didn't just swarm me because I was alone and didn't bully me with numbers. Moreover, you also did the same in the battle just now. Although you boast that your Huan country's sword cultivators have such a bottom line, how can my cultivation 3 countries not have a bottom line comparable to yours? Based on your previous open and above-board behavior, I won't take your lives today. However, you're right. Right now, we're in the middle of a battle and now we're resting. If you and I meet again that day, don't blame me for being ruthless and taking your life. As he spoke, Xiaohua's figure suddenly fell down. Like a meteorite, he fell into the mountain peak 100 meters below and mysteriously disappeared. His terrifying phoenix! It really is a terrifying phoenix! Qi Peng was shocked and couldn't help but feel a strong lingering fear in his heart. He was very glad that when facing Xiaohua's advantage, he didn't lose his principles and didn't choose to be utilitarian like Gao Dazhuang. It was this kind of perseverance that saved his life at this moment. In other words, it saved the lives of the 3 people. To have such a worthy opponent! Isn't it my pleasure? Even if I die at the hands of such an opponent, I have no regrets. Qi Peng's heart, like Jie's heart, a hero's hero. Following which, Qi Peng's figure slowly recovered. The severed arm that had fallen in midair also flew to his side. Qi Peng opened his mouth and spat out an orange-yellow brilliance, which covered the severed arm. As the orange-yellow brilliance retracted, the severed arm also fell into Qi Peng's mouth. The brilliance around Qi Peng's body grew brighter and a strange, rock-like Dharma idol appeared on Qi Peng's back. With a long cry, the Dharma idol disappeared again. However, with just this cry, Qi Peng's originally yellow face instantly turned deathly pale, as if he had used up a lot of his heart's blood. When the long cry disappeared, an orange-yellow brilliance shot out from Qi Peng's severed arm. A feather-like object flashed out from the brilliance. Then, the brilliance retracted and the feather gradually trembled. Countless strands of blood appeared from the brilliance, and quickly wrapped around the feather. After half a cup of tea's time, another orange-yellow arm grew out from Qi Peng's left shoulder. Hee, terrifying phoenix! Even if you pay attention, to kill this Qi, you still don't have the strength to do so. Qi Peng faintly chuckled. With a pat of his hand, he took out several medicinal pills from his storage bag and threw them into his mouth without even looking. Once the medicinal effects had spread, he once again slowly flew up. Without activating his wings, he flew towards the foot of the mountain where he had previously fought with Xiaohua. At this time, only Lian Xiaoqiao stood there in a daze. His brows were tightly knitted, as if he was thinking about something. Swordsman Lian! Qi Ping looked around and asked curiously. Where's Swordsman Gao? He went to chase after Xiao Hua. Lian Xiaoqiao said casually, as if he wasn't too interested in Gao Dazhuang's whereabouts. Swordsman Lian! Qi Ping understood Lian Xiaoqiao's thoughts. He flew to his side and said, That terrifying phoenix is really powerful. You don't mind it. Losing to him is nothing. You always come out unscathed. And just now, this Qi was injured by Xiao Hua's strange magic weapon. Moreover, I almost lost my life. Ah? He is actually so powerful? Lian Xiaoqiao's face turned pale. He didn't quite believe Qi Ping's words. Qi Ping naturally wouldn't tell him the details of how his wings were cut off by Xiao Hua. He only smiled and said, Of course. Why would this old man lie to you? This guy can even kill Qin Jian, who is at the 3rd grade of the illusory sword. What's more, we are not real swordsmen of the sword region. Xiao Hua is indeed powerful. His arms have the strength of 10,000 caddies. Lian Xiaoqiao hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, Even his staff technique is unique. It's not much worse than my ancestral staff technique. He can defeat this Qi Peng and even kill this Qi Ping. This Qi Ping is convinced, but just now, when Senior Huajian's sword intent appeared, his body also had Huajian's sword intent. That might be slightly weaker than Senior Huajian's sword intent, but it's still Huajian. What? Huajian's sword intent? Are you sure? Qi Ping was naturally shocked and asked Lian Xiaoqiao in an incredulous tone. Alas, this Qi Ping has been thinking about the Huajian's sword intent. The more I think about it, the more scared I am. Valley Master Qi should know that although my Huajian doesn't cultivate flying swords, I'm not unfamiliar with flying swords. I'm even very sensitive to them. My Huajian lineage hid in Huajian because we couldn't cultivate flying swords. How could I be wrong about the Huajian sword intent? Since Lian Xiaoqiao said so, he revealed everything. Since Xiao Hua has Huajian's cultivation, could he be someone from the sword region? Sure. Hearing this, Qi Ping also understood Lian Xiaoqiao's fear. That's right, everyone in the sword region knew that when LV Rochang entered the sword tomb, he was lured into the 10 directions annihilation formation by a Huajian's sword intent. Moreover, that sword intent also contained the sword energy of the Huajian sword sect. If this Xiao Hua really had Huajian's sword intent, then the matter of luring sword cultivators into the formation must have been done by him. How could a cultivator like Xiao Hua be able to cultivate Huajian in the 3 kingdoms? He must have cultivated in the sword region, but since he cultivated in the sword region, then he must be one of the sword region's Huajian. Qi Ping even wanted to slap his head and say the name of a certain Huajian senior. However, did Qi Ping dare? The reason why Lian Xiaoqiao's face was pale seemed to be because of this. To be able to sneak into the sword region and cultivate Huajian, this Dao sect could not be said to be small. Although any Huajian couldn't destroy the Huajian Valley or Huajian Mountain Ridge, if they deliberately went against these 2 sects, even the many Huajian swords who came to the Lian kingdom to participate in the war would have to think twice. The more he thought, the paler Qi Ping's face became. He didn't dare to imagine, if he reported this matter to the Huajian swords, what kind of situation would that be? Suspicion and jealousy would immediately become the mainstream among the Huajian swords. There was no need to fight this battle of swords anymore. The sword region had already lost. Be careful with your words, Qi Ping glanced at Lian Xiaoqiao, and there was an inexplicable meaning in their eyes. For a moment, the wind whistled in the foothills. The 2 of them didn't dare to say another word, as if they said half a word more, the whole battle situation would be reversed. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, an anxious voice sounded. Valley Master Qi, Valley Master Qi. From the distant mountain rocks, a tall and strong figure suddenly appeared. His face was also pale, and even had the same fear. As soon as he saw Qi Ping, he shouted loudly. Qi Ping frowned slightly and asked, "Fellow swordsman Gao, did you catch up to Xiao Hua?" Although Gao Dazhuang was panicking, when he saw Qi Ping's frown, he immediately understood what Qi Ping was thinking. He hurriedly smiled and said, "When I saw Valley Master Qi chasing after Xiao Hua, I immediately used the earth escape technique to go in front of Xiao Hua to block him. Who would have thought that before I could escape from the earth, I saw Xiao Hua also escape into the mountain rocks? I won't hide it from Valley Master Qi, this fiend really scared me. I thought that he discovered my whereabouts, so I hid in the mountain rocks and didn't dare to move. Fortunately, that fiend didn't discover my whereabouts, but used the 5 elements escape technique." When Gao Dazhuang said this, the smile on his face didn't deepen. Instead, it slowly disappeared, and the heavy fear appeared in his eyes again. "Guess, what did I see?" "What did you see?" Qi Ping was shocked. He raised his eyes to look at Lian Xiaoqiao. The two of them almost thought that Gao Dazhuang also saw the Huajian swordsmanship on Xiao Hua's body. Who would have thought that Gao Dazhuang's words would make them even more shocked? Gao Mao hid for a while and saw that the fiend didn't notice Gao Mao. Instead, he swaggered and used the 5 elements escape technique. Therefore, Gao Mao boldly followed behind him, wanting to see if there was a chance to kill him in the rocks. Gao Dazhuang continued, "However, although that fiend's 5 elements escape technique isn't as wonderful as my cloud caves, it also has its own wonders. Although I could catch up, I couldn't get close. After he escaped for dozens of miles, he actually escaped from the mountain rocks again." At this point, Gao Dazhuang hesitated again. He paused for a moment and continued, "When I saw that fiend come out of the earth, I knew that I had already lost the chance to kill him. I originally wanted to return to this place. But this Gao was truly unwilling to accept this, so I quietly left the soil. However, just as this Gao came out of the soil, I heard a burst of thunder coming from above this Gao's head. That Xiao Hua actually rode on the thunder and rushed towards the south at a speed that this Gao couldn't see clearly. 11. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.